It was a big sports weekend. The Knicks beat the Spurs for the NBA championship Saturday. Sunday in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes lifted the Stanley Cup in Las Vegas. And Julie Walker reports.
It was fight night at the White House Sunday night for President Trump's 80th birthday. UFC putting up an octagon stage on the South Lawn. Fighter jets flew overhead. And the president sat ringside with the First Lady and UFC President Dana White, all watching 7 fights, marking a unique moment for the sport. There were chants of USA, USA. The Freedom 250 event not just celebrating Trump's birthday, but the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence's signing. Thousands of UFC fans and Trump friends were in attendance, including notable figures like Mark Zuckerberg. I'm Julie Walker.
There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM-FM, Dedido. Powered by Glimpses Media.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. One of America's greatest cities was founded by French colonists in 1718. It became part of the U.S. in 1803 after the Louisiana Purchase. New Orleans is the birthplace of jazz and home to Creole cooking and has produced dozens of famous recording artists, including Fats Domino, Louis Armstrong,
I see trees of green, red roses too,
and R&B queen Irma Thomas. New Orleans suffered unspeakable tragedy in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit, flooding 80% of the city and leaving tens of thousands of people without food, electricity, water, or medical care. But the city rebuilt. Mardi Gras returned, and the French Quarter and all of New Orleans came back strong.
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at JJGuam.com.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Attention all 2026 graduates! Looking for the perfect spot to celebrate your big achievement? Chili's is the best place to be. Just show proof of graduation and enjoy a complimentary meal on us. Now through June 30th. It's our way of saying congrats. Some restrictions apply. Visit chilisguam.com/special promos for more details. Only at Chili's. Great food and memories happen here.
Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam Mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Balanced, fair, thoughtful. Wave 105 FM.
2:09 in the afternoon. Welcome to the show. Another edition of the BrightSide right here on the Wave 105 on this Tuesday, June 16th. My name is Ryan St. Nicholas. Thank you for tuning in. Let's bring up the host of the show, Mr. Pauly Suba.
And we do want to thank our sponsors, and that's Micro Pack. Dad deserves the best, right? Mm-hmm. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at Micro Pack. As well as Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's more life-great food and memories happen here. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. And Triple J, don't forget you can get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you.
Pauly,
671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. We do want to pay our respects to Police Chief Stephen Ignacio and his family. He passed away, right? Mm-hmm. This morning, early this morning. The office of the governor mentioned that they got the notice of his passing this morning, I believe, in California. I'm just going to read the, just in case you haven't seen it before, I'm going to just read the statement from the administration. Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Acting Governor Josh Tenorio joined the people of Guam in mourning the passing of Guam Police Chief Stephen C. Ignacio. Ignacio's passing is a profound loss for Guam. For more than 3 decades, he dedicated his life to protecting our people and serving this island with honor, integrity, and unwavering commitment. He wore the badge not for recognition, but because he believed deeply in public service and in the responsibility to safeguard the community he loved. Across the years, generations of officers came to know him as a mentor, a leader, and a steady hand. The people of Guam came to know him as a public servant who carried out his duties with professionalism, humility, and an enduring sense of purpose. His contributions to public safety and to the Guam Police Department leave a legacy that will be felt for generations. Today, Guam mourns alongside Chief Ignacio's children, grandchildren, family members, friends, and all those who loved him as they grieve the loss of a devoted father, grandfather, mentor, and friend. We also extend our deepest condolences to the men and women of the Guam Police Department who have lost not only their chief, but one of their own. At a time when words can never fully ease the pain of such a loss, we hope Chief Ignacio's family finds comfort in knowing that his life made a lasting difference in the lives of countless people across our island. Guam is safer, stronger, and better because of his service. Chief Joe Carbolito, Colonel Carbolito, is serving as the acting chief of police and was appointed on Monday, ensuring continuity of leadership within the Guam Police Department. He was the acting director for DOC, so that role belongs now to Major Andrew Kittigwa. So he is the acting DOC director. The statement from the governor concludes by saying, we join our community in honoring Chief Ignacio's legacy, expressing our gratitude for his lifetime of service and keeping his family and fellow officers in our prayers. A number of statements came in. Vice Speaker Tony Addis says, I am deeply saddened by the passing of Chief Ignacio. In this time of profound grief, my heart is especially with his family. To his loved ones, I extend my deepest condolences and prayers, and I hope they are surrounded by comfort, strength, and love as they mourn this tremendous loss. Ignacio gave so much of his life in service to our people, and Guam is better because of that service. And I'm just paraphrasing some of these statements, because there are a number of them. This is from Congressman Jim Moylan. He says, today our island family has lost an extraordinary leader, a dedicated law enforcer, and a truly humble public servant. I joined Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, Acting Governor Josh Tenorio, and the entire community of Guam in mourning the passing of Police Chief Stephen Ignacio. For over 30 years, Ignacio wore his badge with immense pride, integrity, and a profound sense of duty. It was an honor and privilege to work closely with Chief Ignacio on many projects over the years, most recently to secure nearly $1 million for a new GPD patrol vehicle fleet. The chief was always focused on ensuring his officers had the resources and support they needed to keep Guam safe. Let me see here, because I don't want to miss them. Tina Rose Munya Barnes, Senator Tina Rose Munya Barnes says, Chief Ignacio was a man of integrity whose life reflected the highest ideals of public service. Through more than 3 decades of dedicated service, he worked his way through the ranks, earning the trust, respect, and admiration of those he served alongside. His contributions to law enforcement and public safety will leave a lasting legacy for generations of officers to come. A proud son of Barrigada, Chief Ignacio remained deeply connected to his community throughout his life. Beyond his time in the police force, he was known as a devoted husband, loving father, and family man whose greatest pride was the family he cherished. On a personal level, I was blessed to know Steve, not only as a respected public servant, but also as my consegru. He had a wonderful sense of humor and a warm personality that could bring laughter and comfort to those around him. His kindness, humility, and genuine love for people are qualities that will be remembered just as much as his time in service to the people of Guam. Consegru, is that in-law?
Good question.
While Guam has lost a dedicated public servant, his family has lost a beloved father, grandfather, and guiding presence. Our hearts are with them during this difficult time, and we join the people of Guam in honoring a life of service, sacrifice, and commitment. Let me see here, because I know there's another one from there. Yes, Speaker Frank. Chief Ignacio devoted his life to public service and to the safety and well-being of the people of Guam throughout his distinguished career with GPD. He served with dedication, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to protecting our community. The loss of Chief Ignacio was felt not only by those who knew and loved him personally, but also by the many officers, employees, and residents whose lives were touched by his service. His contributions to Guam's law enforcement community and his steadfast commitment to public safety leave a lasting legacy that will be remembered for years to come. Senator Sean Gumatauta, who has oversight over GPD, right? So he says, I joined the community in mourning the passing of GPD's Chief Stephen Ignacio. He was the consummate law enforcement professional, someone who fought tirelessly to ensure GPD had the resources to do their jobs. Chief Ignacio was also a steady counsel during my first term, and for that I am forever grateful. He now joins his late wife in heaven. My prayers are with his family. Adios, Chief Ignacio. His wife passed away in February, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I don't know. There's the saying that when your spouse leaves, you're not, when you really love your spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not too far off.
Yeah.
what I would say about Chief Ignacio is I know his children.
Yeah.
And that's how you can also judge a man's character based on his children. And so his children are wonderful people.
Yes.
Just wonderful people. And so, yeah, my prayers are with Chief Ignacio's family because I've been in contact. I've had my own experiences with Chief Ignacio and then also his children too.
Yeah.
And so we pray for you and your family, and we thank you for your public service because it does not go, it has not gone unnoticed. My dad was sharing this morning that he was his cadre too. So he saw Chief Ignacio come into GPD from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
1987. Yeah.
I remember when we were talking about Project U and the kickball tournament, and it was the very first one. And he was there watching the very first kickball tournament, and you could just see, this is really what it's about. I mean, that's also policing. I mean, at the very beginning, at that level that you go into the schools, he was an advocate of that. He believed in this program that you go into the schools when they're young, and you show them that police officers are not to be, you're not to be scared of them, that they're part of the community, that they are to be approached, because the saying goes, and he said it too before. He goes, what we got to get rid of that stigma of kids seeing a police officer and be like, ooh, the police. But we taught our kids that. And so he's trying to break that stigma.
Yeah.
And that was what Project U was all about in the kickball tournament in the elementary schools. I mean, you couldn't get on that team unless you were like a role model in your school. Like you had to meet a certain standard. The way you carry yourself at school determined on whether or not you were able to get on one of these kickball tournament teams.
Yeah.
Right? And so that whole thing where we talk, when I think it's like my older cousins and whatnot, they're like, ooh, the policeman. And then what do? You get back down. You stop misbehaving. And so that's something that he was trying to, that he says that mindset needs to stop. We should not be teaching our kids that. We should be teaching our kids, oh, there's a policeman, go say hello.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think in that respect, growing up, Pauly, and there's not a lot of many of us that can say we grew up with a cop, right? So we always saw Dad, right?
Or didn't see,
yeah,
because he's out at work,
yeah,
missing plenty birthdays.
So
missing,
we saw the coolness,
missing all of some of the milestones in our day. A lot of times. Sometimes, yes, they're there, but they're there, and then in 5 minutes they're gone.
Exactly, but
because they had a call.
For us, I mean, we grew up with the cool dad. The dad that leaves work at home, at work, and comes and hang out with the kids. I mean, we always went down to our pig kennel to feed the pigs and plant the taro and plant the banana down at the ranch. And when people saw our dads, it was like, oh no, we got watch out, a duck. and credit to Chief Ignacio for noticing that and wanting to change that outlook on police officers. I mean, I remember when Governor Lou and Governor Josh just won the election, and I was talking to a couple friends of mine in Adelup, and because an administration, any administration, both Republican and Democrat, there are two things that you can pretty much know the direction of where the administration is going to go by two positions, chief of staff and chief of police. And, you know, when Chief Ignacio's name was brought up, I'm like, I was kind of happy because here you have a gentleman just like your dad that was in the rank and file and rose through the ranks, that had the respect of the rank and file, and would probably be in the GPD as a whole would support his nomination to be chief of police, and rightfully so. They did, and I felt confident that just by his appointment, I was like, okay, GPD is going to go somewhere. And you're right. Yeah, I mean, look at what he's done. He's supported, you know, the kid aspect of it, and then he supported the rank and file. And I was there at the legislature, you know, when he would go up for the budget and fight for the budget. And rightfully so. So again,
and then there's a number of cycles requesting to keep the cycles going. He said there must be a standard, though.
Yeah.
And one thing that I remember watching those public hearings when they're talking about, you know, maybe lowering some of the standards so we can get in more police officers.
Yeah.
And he stood by it. He goes, no, you know, 10th grade level, that's pretty, you know, basic.
Yeah.
We don't want to lower it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that, right? Because when we're thinking about how do we solve the issues, how do we solve the issues with a shortage of police officers? Because look at, I mean, I remember the budget hearing, he goes, all of us here, this wasn't even long ago, all of us here at this table's got about 30 years in the force, you know? And so all of that institutional knowledge of being a police officer right there, you know, and he's saying, but for how much longer?
Yeah.
Because, you know, the old guard is going to be out soon. And then you have these new recruits coming in. There has to be a standard because we have to set precedents. And him and even Colonel Carbolito said being a police officer is not for everyone. It just isn't. That is the reality of it.
It's not like you go and it's a regular job and okay, yeah.
Yeah,
no.
it's a prestigious position. You are there to protect and to serve. And so you need to be held to that standard because people can take advantage of authority. People do take advantage of authority, right? And so they have to be held to a higher standard. And Chief Ignacio stood by that. Not anybody could just become a police officer. You need to meet the standard.
Yeah.
And then when you're in too, I mean, he had said it is a constant challenge to keep police officers because this is not an easy job. They graduate, then they do the on-the-job training, and they're like, Chief, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And they're out in 2 weeks and they have to go through this process over and over again.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle. And then you have people that make certain certifications. I mean, they can take their certification and their experience, their limited experience, and go work in the federal government.
Make
and
more money.
And those police, that's less stressful.
Less stressful, make more money.
Right.
And you don't have to go past 35, which
Right.
is, I'm so glad they wrote that law to lower down the retirement age.
Right.
I mean, if FBI, you retire in 20 years, regardless of whether you could go another 20 or not. That is the standard right there. And I think generally, in terms of what Chief Ignacio was trying to do about not lowering the standards, when you think about it, right, it's you do have to maintain a certain level of I mean, because they already lowered the standards. Because before, when you would go to the academy, and this is before Balea, it was like almost 8 months, but the whole year. But then, you know, they wanted to push recruitment out. They wanted to get more, so that went down to 6 months. And so a lot of people, I mean, years ago, I want to say about 20 years ago, when there were a lot of people, I mean, we had cops on the road, but psychologically they weren't ready. they may have been fit and good to go, but the psychological aspect of being a police officer, because like you said, a gentleman can be a police officer after graduating in 2 weeks. Hey man, this is not for me. Right. I got to go.
Yeah.
I can't hack this. Right. So the psychological aspect, I mean, did that 3 months when they cut it down, did it make a difference? Yeah, it probably did. I mean, because my brother was one of the first graduating class where they put it was airport police, marshal, GPD. They were, and then also, I mean, it was combined together back in, I think he graduated in '89, and so that was the first class. But that they went all the way through for almost a year. I mean, I saw my brother wake up at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning to be at training at 6 o'clock, and that lasted for almost 9 months. And right after his class, everything started chopping down because they needed to make that mark of, we need 300 officers, or we need, just to make the mark. And I think holding the standard with what Chief Ignacio said, he's totally right, because you cannot shortcut, the process of of becoming a police officer, be it on the academic standard or the physical standard too as well. And so kudos to him. He's going to be really missed. He was a good friend, and like you, I'm going to pray for his family, and pretty much pray for GPD, to sustain everything that he has brought to the police department.
Right.
So, man, he's going to be missed.
We'll take this break, and then on the other side, we'll continue the dialogue that was taking place yesterday morning.
Yeah.
On Office of Homeland Security and Civil Defense.
Who knows?
It was pretty tense with Speaker Frank, and we never got to that part.
Yeah, I tried to reach out to him the other day, but he wasn't answering his phone. He was probably busy. But yeah, we'll play him, and maybe we.
Well,
can
it's
get
as
him
though
on.
he's here, because you'll see him and you'll hear him.
Yeah.
So it's as though he is on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take the break. Wave 105.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. It's the great American pastime, and there's nothing more exciting in baseball than a home run. But home runs were not a big deal until 1927, when New York Yankee Babe Ruth set the all-time record for the most home runs in a single season with 60.
When you get a fastball and you hit it squarely, it'll go much further than a slow ball. You don't have to furnish your own power.
That record stood for 34 years, until Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in one single season.
Fastball hit deep to right. This could be it. Way back there. Holy cow! 61 home runs, and they're still fighting for that ball out there.
All records are meant to be broken, and the most home runs during an MLB season now stands at 73.
Second baseman moves 20 feet into right field. Barnes hits one. Deep to right field. Look out on the coming cove. Barnes has number 73.
Thanks to Barry Bonds' superhuman batting for the San Francisco Giants in 2001.
Pick up package at the post office? Check. Drop off dry cleaning? Check. Gas up? Check. Pick up online order at Subway? Check.
You value your time and efficiency. So when you order at SubwayPacific.com, Subway makes sure your sub, salad, or wrap is ready for you. With just a few taps on your phone on SubwayPacific.com, your food will be ready to pick up at your convenience or delivered via Good to Go. Either way, when you order online at SubwayPacific.com, you can do your thing while Subway gets your meal fresh and ready for you. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup or delivery. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
Welcome back to the show. 35 minutes into the hour of 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the Bright Side right here on Wave 105. Sending it back to the host, Mr. Pauly Suba.
All right. Again, yesterday's oversight hearing focused on the Office of Homeland Security, Guam Homeland Security, and Office of Civil Defense. FEMA has concerns about how Guam handled their federal disaster and emergency management grants. Federal auditors found major problems with how Guam Homeland Security and Civil Defense managed the FEMA money. Some concerns include costs could not be properly verified. Some expenses may not have been allowed under federal rules. Overtime costs from 2018 to 2023 were not properly approved or supported. There were weak internal controls. There was a higher risk of fraud. More than $34 million to $40 million in costs were questioned. Some former staff were later indicted for alleged misuse of federal funds. Because of these problems, FEMA placed all FEMA Region 9 grants to Guam on restrictive drawdown status starting May 12, 2026. And so this does not mean Guam lost the money. It means Guam cannot simply pull down FEMA funds automatically. And before FEMA releases money, Guam must first submit documents proving the expenses are proper. FEMA then reviews and approves the request before any money is released. So towards the tail end, Speaker Frank Bloss Jr., who I believe was he was what Esther Agagi was, right? The very first. So he knows a little bit about these offices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he asks, and this is where we paused yesterday, what grants are you operating with no restrictions? And then this is Miss Lucy Perez. And you can actually watch, because we're playing these clips from yesterday's oversight hearing. So if you tune into our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam, not only will you hear it, but you'll also see it.
We'll get you a list of names for
please.
the record.
Yes, thank you for that so much. Okay, I want to recognize the attendance of our Speaker of this Guam Legislature, Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. Mr. Speaker, welcome, and you are now recognized for 5 minutes regarding the cap and this issue with FEMA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the panel from being here. I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm greatly disappointed. Okay. Ms. Agagi, you said that of the listing of grants that are on restriction, other than this listing, you have 5 grants that you currently have operation without any restrictions. What grants are those? And the amounts for each grant.
Have a day, Speaker. So, sir, the grants that are listed on this memo that we have at Homeland Security are the Emergency Management Performance Grants, the Building Resilience, Infrastructure, and Communities Grants, the Hazard Mitigation Grants, the Fire Management Assistance Grants, and the Public Assistance Grants.
Those are not restricted?
Sir, these are the grants that we are managing at Homeland Security that are listed on this restrictive drawdown status. In addition to these, not listed here are the Homeland Security grants, and then we also have a tsunami grant program that we also manage over at Homeland.
Earlier, you said that there were 5 grants that were not on restriction, other than Homeland Security Grant Program and the Tsunami Grant. Which are what are the other 3 grants?
The ones that are not on restriction, but follow the same process to make sure that we get reimbursed are the Homeland Security Grant, HSGP, our Tsunami, our Next Gen Communications, which was just awarded last year, our Firefighters Grant, which was just, our Firefighters Grant is different from the Fire Management Assistance. It's called AFG, which was just awarded last year, and our cybersecurity. Those are the 5.
And how much for each grant?
I will get that list to you, but it approximately is about $9.5 million. But I can provide a list that identifies each grant. The Next Gen itself is a 3-year grant. So that's why I want to give it to you in writing so you can see the breakdown.
Okay, so of the grants that are affected, I'm referring to this letter from Mr. Fenton, I guess, on the restrictive grants. The grants that have restrictive drawdown status. Okay, can you go through each of these grants and tell me how much these grants were each?
Thank you, Senator. As far as the grants that were restricted, I can speak for the public assistance grants. Although the grants were awarded at $70 million, they may be restricted, but there's a different process now that we're communicating with FEMA. Is now that we submit all our requests for reimbursements, all our disbursements, and then they review those disbursements, and then they review, and once they get authorized or approved, then we send it. They send us to me a letter saying it's been reviewed and approved, and then we submit that to DOA for reimbursement. Unlike in the past, this is based on our last meeting after the letter from Mr. Fenton about the restrictive, and we communicate with our federal partners to find out what are our ways to be able to get these monies drawn down. And we met with them just a couple of weeks ago, so we're doing that process now. Is have them review it first, and then we will submit the request to DOA to process the drawdown.
Okay, that's one of 16 grants. There's 15 more. Can I have the numbers for the 15?
And that also goes through the hazard mitigation, same process.
Okay, let me get this right. You said $70 million for public assistance.
Right. And
what about crisis counseling and immediate services program?
That is the grant that's being handled by Homeland.
Okay, so what are again, panel, what is the amounts, the total amounts for each of the 16 grants here?
Senator or Speaker, with all due respect, I will submit a documentation that will identify each of the grants and the total amount awarded with the period of performance.
I would like to also know what the start date was and what the expiration date is in the grants.
Yes,
okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
Speakers, that's just one line of questioning. So Speaker then asks about how are we paying for personnel over at the office. First of all, he wants to know even how many employees are there, and then how are we paying for them. And so the Guam Recovery Office is now assisting. That's where Mr. Cabana is coming from, and he's also assisting Office of Homeland Security and Civil Defense with their finances. Along with him are his staff at the Guam Recovery Office. And so, again, Bloss asks, how are you paying for personnel?
Being funded by HSGP, so that means you have at least 5 that is funded under EMPG, yet it's under restricted drawdown. How are you paying for them? How are you paying personnel costs for them?
That would be a DOA question, sir.
That would be a pardon?
A Department of Administration.
That would be a
BDMR question.
What is your estimate as to how much that personnel is costing you?
Mr. Cabana has that number.
I'm sorry, sir. Under the EMPG, which is we're still pending award letter from FEMA, which is the 23 EMPG. There was an award letter, but they needed some narrative correction on the admin plan. So out of that, we've already spent about 703,000 out of the $984,776 dollars for the EMPG.
For what fiscal year?
For fiscal year 23.
For what?
23.
How about so how do you pay for 24, 25?
24, we'll continue to pay 24 and 25 also expenditure under a grant that's no longer a performance. Until such time this grant is being approved by FEMA, then as we get it approved, then we're gonna submit all our requests for drawdown. So we've already got the monies allotted for the 23, 24, and 25 EMPG grant.
How are you going to justify using funding from a different funding source, different grant, for EMPG costs?
The EMPG grant is only going to pay EMPG or operations staffing. But we don't have
what specific grant are you taking money from?
No, it's taken off from a grant that's already paid performance under EMPG. So right now, the way DOA obligates the monies is they're using a grant funding that's already been approved by FEMA, because as you know, BBMR will not give us. Well, we don't have any funding for sure because we're waiting for FEMA for the award letter. And although the award letter was there for the 23 EMPG, it's been approved, but we just have not gotten an award letter saying, okay, you can go ahead and submit that to your government agency as far as establishing an account. But we do have the award letter for that.
This letter is dated May 12, 2026.
Yes, Senator Speaker. Yes, also part of the reason that this had not been submitted by FEMA yet is because of the shutdown that they recently had with the federal government that would shut down the whole office, and we had no communication as far as if this 23 already. But we did submit our admin plan with all the narrative that is needed to award the grant.
I really can't go. There are a number of questions I want to be able to ask based on personnel, how much these grants are worth, were for, and what they start and the performance dates are for these grants that are on restricted drawdown status. But I'm going to move on.
So Mr. Cabana again said the recent shutdown, and we know this, we are aware that there was that federal shutdown for quite some time with Homeland Security, right? And so Mr. Cabana is basically saying what we heard even with Lester Carlson when we were talking about money set aside for recovery or even preparing for Typhoon Sinlaku. And so he says, well, we haven't settled the whole issue in the past with these concerns in the past because of the federal shutdown. And so things are starting to open up, and hopefully we do get this resolved sooner. But again, as of yesterday at 8:30, Cabana is saying that that hasn't been resolved because the process has been slowed because of the shutdown, and hopefully they start addressing that sooner than later, right? So of course Speaker Frank Blas says he can't until he gets better answers there. He can't really move forward. However, there are some things like the secure room. He starts to ask, what happened to your secure room? Oh, I'm sorry. First, the $1.5 million. My bad. He first asked about $1.5 million. What is that money going to be used, right? Because Office of Civil Defense plans on requesting for $1.5 million from the general fund. And so they do respond saying some of that will be used to pay for salaries, for personnel.
Specifically are you asking for?
I'm sorry?
You're going to be requesting for next fiscal year
27.
for 27.
Yes, sir.
How much are you asking and what for?
$1.5 million, sir.
And what for?
It'll cover for personnel costs and basic operations, sir.
What, well, the 1.5 for personnel and basic operations, how much of that could have been going to the HSGP and EMPG, as well as any other grants that you had?
None of that, sir. We anticipated that question. So if there was an expense, such as travel and training, it was not put into our budget digest request because it would be grant related. If there was a project, say, such as DLAN, which is covered under EMPG, then that cost will be covered under EMPG and not local. Now, I do have to say, and this is me, that when we first submitted the budget digest, because of the uncertainty of the grants, I did put in DLAN as a backup because DLAN is a critical system for the Emergency Operations Center. But Mr. Cabana, the HSA, and I have gone through and scrubbed and anticipated questions that may be asked, and that was one of it, is how much of this cost could you take and put into your grants and make sure that it's written in the grants. And that's the key point, is grants, expenses that the agency thinks it's going to utilize or have has to be written in the grants.
So you're telling me personnel and management and maintenance costs were not written in the grant?
No, sir, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I am saying that personnel costs at this time are divided between grants. But based on my observations, so I made a recommendation, and this is my recommendation, that personnel costs be covered under local funding. And this is one of the other reasons. The grants are very restrictive. And before anything can be done, we would have to go back and seek permission to do anything. Like if we wanted to hire a federal grants manager, we'd have to go back to the grantors and say, I'm sorry, I don't have local funds, but this is a necessity, and then have to justify it. And then we have to wait. And sometimes that can be a process. For the past year, it has been painful and because of the shutdowns, right? But it doesn't mean that the ask didn't happen. It went in, and now that everybody's back to work for the past 3 weeks, we have been playing catch up and getting things approved.
Wouldn't a grants management person be one of your asks in your grant process to begin with?
Yes, sir, it could be one of the grants, but some of the grants, I didn't see it in, so we specifically wrote it in. Or they allocated it to a different position, like finance, like ASO, which shouldn't be. It should be specific. You need to have a grants person.
So you
manager.
asked for money for a certain position.
Yes, sir.
And then when you got the permission, oh, I don't want that position, I want another position.
Oh, I don't know what they did back then, sir, but 23 forward and what I've worked on, I can tell you what I've asked for.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Jackie, you mentioned that you have some challenges in your cybersecurity.
We'll move on, right?
Explain to
Again,
me first
Ms.
off,
Perez
you know,
says personnel costs should be covered by
what's
local
going on with
funding
your Mariana Fusion?
because grants are restrictive, and that's her defense or her reasoning why they want to move forward again with how slow things were to reopen the federal government. It gets difficult, but then also when the grant itself is restrictive, it also makes it makes it difficult to move to pull something off either in a short amount of time or maybe even the grant expired. So Speaker Frank, again, he changes the subject, right? Because they're kind of in a barrier. They're not really getting anywhere. So he asks about this secure room. And so this should take us to the top of the hour. This is when things get really tense.
Specific that could happen during that occasion. So they're still operating on on the analysts that are there, and
Okay, under what space are they operating, and how do they store your information? Some of that information is above sensitive. So how do you store it, and who's got access to it?
Well, sir, we cannot store classified information at a facility that is not an approved facility. So we don't have an approved space at Homeland Security to store
That's kind of
classified
interesting,
information.
Esther, because why don't you have an approved space? Okay? You do have a skiff.
Sir,
I know, I built it.
It's not a skiff, sir.
What
It's not
is
a
it?
skiff. It's a secure room.
Okay, so you have
There's
a
a
secure room.
difference.
What happened?
Well, that room was decertified, unbeknownst to us, and it still remains uncertified or decertified. It's lost its accreditation. I've been working with the Fusion Center Director, Rudy Gaza, to talk with the point of contact from that inspection team to respond to some questions we had. Like, for example, how did that secure room pass inspections in the years past and not pass in this last inspection? That question has not been answered yet. In anticipation of maybe a recertification or reaccreditation, I've asked the Fusion Center Director to come up with a scope of work so that maybe we can look at fortifying that space if in fact it did fail inspection, and come up with a plan on how we're going to rectify that. So they're working on that, Senator.
Which goes back to the question, how do you store and manage secure information?
Sir, we do not keep secure information at our facility.
Half your programs here require secure storage. Half your programs here. Your Homeland Security grant program.
Sir, are you saying that our Homeland Security grant program requires a secure facility?
No, you need secure access so you can provide secure, receive and store secure information. Tell me I'm wrong, Esther.
Sir, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I am saying that the information on our Homeland Security grant program, is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm talking about the operations of the Homeland Security grant program. There are going to be times that you're going to need to access, and you're going to need to receive secure information and act on it.
And we do so with our partners with the FBI and with Joint Region Marianas.
I only have a little time, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Asset management. Who handles your asset management program in the facility? And when I talk about asset management, because Lucy, you refer to, you look to when DLAN, when there's a request for materials and supplies and whatnot, okay? You look to in-house as to whether or not you've got it. Do you have a program that keeps that up to date, your asset management? What do you have within the government facilities, your government inventory, and what you have in the private sector inventory? Yes or no?
What I've seen is that OHS OCD does have a asset program, which is also called a resource typing in the FEMA language, right? In the ICS course. And that's stored in DLAN and it's updated. Who works on it and who manages it? It is between the logistics team, the ops chief, and the planning chief.
Okay.
Because they need to understand what we have first within and what other agencies have that we can source or utilize.
Okay. Do you have an asset management program that you can rely on if there was a disaster in the next hour?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have them, even if it's an Excel program, there is a program. There is a plan.
And it's up to date.
And it is up to date.
Okay.
As of Senlaco up to date. Maybe when I go back and I look at something and we may have decommissioned something, I might have to update it again. But as of Senlaco, yes, sir, we do.
Okay. I noticed I'm done with time, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Speaker.
I still do want to share what Senator Shango
first off,
Matato says in his closing, right? Well, for the most part, it is a lot of what Senator Vice Speaker Tony Atta has asked or said when he was talking to the Office of Homeland Security, right? Just encouraging the agency to continue to improve and strengthen their internal controls and also fix the financial management issues that they're facing. And so Vice Speaker Tony Atta says, let's just move forward. And they agreed. They said what's done is done. The past is the past. And they are making steps to improve their office. However, there are questions. There are questions even from Esther Agagi. I also would like to know now. How did the secure room not pass inspection in the past and then not pass recently? Who does the inspection? And what changes were made when it passed before? So, we'll see if we can even get those answers. Obviously, Esther Agagi doesn't even know the answer to that, and she oversees the agency. So that's a question that she has too, right? 3 o'clock, KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam. So, we'll just play on the other side. We'll play Senator Shango Matato's closing on this bill. And then if you thought that was tense, later on in the afternoon on the Veterans Cemetery, there's a lot of talking over each other. But they're all there for the right reasons, though. And I hope the veterans, the legislature, they don't lose sight of that. What is the goal? To provide funding to Veterans Cemetery. Obviously, they need to expand the cemetery. And so there was a lot of back and forth. But before we get to that one, there's another bill that we'll get to first because that was pretty straightforward. However, there are concerns, well, who's going to pay for this? And it has to do with hospice. It has to do with housing our senior citizens' homes. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that first after this. Again, here comes your AP News update right here on Wave 105.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The U.S. Air Force says 8 people aboard a B-52 bomber that crashed shortly after takeoff at Edwards Air Force Base north of Los Angeles are dead. The long-range bomber was said to be on a routine test mission, the cause not immediately clear. President Trump's attending a G7 summit in France after striking an agreement with Iran.
It's signed, the deal's all signed, and the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found, but it's essentially ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened.
Pakistan says there will be a signing of an agreement Friday. The president says Iran's leadership played a role in the agreement.
As you know, the first set is gone, the second set is gone, and we found the third set to be very smart, strong, very smart, but We ended up making a deal.
The president hopes this will be a good new relationship with Iran.
And if we don't, we go back to where we started, but I don't think that's going to be necessary.
Among the challenges ahead is whether Israel will continue its offensive in Lebanon. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Stock markets rallied worldwide and oil prices eased on word of the deal. In other news, California Governor Gavin Newsom says the Justice Department is investigating him and his wife. The Democrats accusing the Trump administration of targeting him for political purposes as he weighs a presidential bid.
Not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents.
Fox is buying the streaming platform Roku in a deal valued around $22 billion. And at the World Cup, Cape Verde stunned Spain, battling to a scoreless draw. Spain's one of the favorites to win the tournament. Cape Verde's making its World Cup debut. This is AP News. World Cup fever has been on display even at one of baseball's most storied ballparks.
One day after Scotland's first World Cup win in 36 years, 1-0 over Haiti at nearby Boston Stadium, Scottish fans continued the party at historic Fenway Park, home of MLB's Boston Red Sox. Former Red Sox World Series hero and visiting Texas Rangers pitcher Nathan Eovaldi tells the AP,
It reminded me of the 21 postseason game. It's just like a super electric crowd.
It was the first baseball game for two young Scotland fans who sat next to the Rangers dugout, Texas skipper Skip Schumacher.
I think we have new baseball fans because of it.
Before the game, the kilt-wearing and bagpipe-playing Tartan Army paraded in these streets from a nearby public park to the ballpark.
Hearing whatever it was, 4,000 or 5,000 fans in center field and that wave and the whole deal was pretty special to take it all in and witness.
Gethin Coolbaugh, Boston.
There are more stories at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to KGUM-FM Dedido, Wave 105.1 FM, the talk of Guam, a proud Glimpses media radio station.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday, the American Revolutionary War began on April 19th, 1775, with the battles of Concord and Lexington, as the 13 colonies sought to separate themselves from Britain. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed, but the war didn't end until both countries signed the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Fighting stopped at Yorktown in 1781, but we didn't have instant communication in the 18th century. Messages traveled by ships, crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and it would take months to receive a reply before peace could be achieved.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Do you hear that? And that? And that? Those are the sounds of a healthy and vibrant community. And to this United Way volunteer, nothing sounds better. They're the sounds of children being given greater chances to succeed in school. The sounds of neighbors receiving the support needed to overcome challenges, both big and small. They're the sounds of families gaining access to quality health care and nutritious food for their tables. And they're the sounds of members of our community who've benefited from United Way's financial education programs. See, wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way. People working together to respond and growing the good for everyone. United is the way. So join us by getting involved or giving back. Learn more at unitedway.org.
This Father's Day, level up Dad's Ride with 20% off Nano Ceramic Coating. Go Global HP for style or Extreme Ceramic to beat the heat. Call 647-SLAM. Detailing and gift certificates available. Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter. All summer long, Chili's Party Platters make celebrating easy and delicious. Perfect for grad parties, family gatherings, or anytime you're feeding a crowd. Available for pickup or for delivery. Only at Chili's. Great value and memories happen here.
Hafa a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
Celebrate Dad in style at Roots Hills Grill House at Guam Plaza Resort. Join our special Father's Day brunch with prime cuts, seafood, and sweet treats. Adults, $85. Children, $42.50. Make it a day Dad won't forget.
The road to Adelude continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates. Vice Speaker Tony Atta and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Rhythm starts to play, dance with me, make me sway, like a lazy ocean hugs the shore. Hold me close, sway me more, like a flower bending in the breeze. Bend with me, sway with ease. When you dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me.
11 in the afternoon. Welcome back to the show. This is the Bright Side right here on Wave 105. We're KGUM FM Dedido Guam. Let's bring back the host, Mr. Pauly Suba.
Welcome back. We do want to thank our sponsors, Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. Micropack, don't forget that Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at Micropack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J, get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you. And then, of course, to be honest with you, today's the last day to send in your dad messages, right? You can text them in or WhatsApp them, actually. It's WhatsApp. 671-922-1051, at least for myself, right? I'm stacking all of these prizes. We've heard some really good ones from Paul, Jason, some that were sent in as well, Francine, Kevin, and Tyler. And so they're all in the running. I have their full names. I have their phone numbers as well. And then I'll randomly pick one of these people, and whoever else WhatsApps us or calls in and gives us a story about their dad. And there are some really good ones. I wish I could give everybody these prizes, right? But again, I do want to thank our sponsors, Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Hills Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, Cream and Butter. And remember to participate. Just send that WhatsApp in, 671-922-1051, or call in your story about your dad. And then you'll be in the running, because what I was able to do is they said, these are all the prizes that you're giving away. And I already gave away. We gave away to Tori early when we were doing this. But I saw all these prizes and like, I really want to really make one dad super happy, right? And so I am stacking the rest of my prizes. Let me see. Gotta find my name here, because they set aside prizes for all of us to give away. And where am I? Okay, so I'm giving away a $60 gift certificate to Cream and Butter, $20 to Roots Hills Grill House for lunch Friday or Saturday. $100 worth of $100 gift certificate to AutoWorks and $20 to Jollibee.
Nice.
So all of that to one winner tomorrow. The reason why I want to do it tomorrow, because obviously when we give it away tomorrow, you're not going to have time to come and pick it up, right? So you have Thursday to pick it up, and then you have Friday to pick it up. Because I know life happens. It can be difficult. So I want to give you time to come here and get these prizes. So that way you can splurge on Father's Day. Because Father's Day, again, is this weekend, this Sunday, July 21st, right? So time is just flying by. So I don't want to wait until Friday, because obviously if we wait until Friday to give this away, the soonest I can give it away is at 2, and then you really only have less than 2 hours to get over here.
Yeah.
So that's why I just want to do that now to make it easy. I want to give it away tomorrow, give you Thursday and Friday to come over and get your prizes. And don't worry, I mean, even if you can't, you can still come by the following week and get the prizes. But I do want to give you the opportunity to get it before Father's Day. So again, up for grabs again is, let me just make sure I got this correct. $60 to Cream and Butter. That's where I get my hair done. $20 off lunch or dinner on Friday. Just lunch on Friday and Saturday at Roots Hills Grill House. $100 to AutoWorks and $20 to Jollibee.
Nice.
And so I know that Patty has also been giving away prizes on her show too. So just continue to tune in to Patty and our sister station Power 98, because they all have prizes as well that they are giving away. Okay, so and I did get another statement of condolences. And this one coming from the USA Crime Stoppers Region 14. They are also saddened by the loss of Police Chief Stephen Ignacio. So again, this is the USA Crime Stoppers Region 14 and Guam Crime Stoppers Program, saying, we are saddened by the loss of Police Chief Steve Ignacio. We would occasionally meet up at Simply Foods and SDA in Agana Heights and talk about drugs and crimes in our community and how we can, as Crime Stoppers, assist the police department in the fight against crime and drugs. We also talk about trying to eat good and healthy. Saduz Masi, my brother in blue, for all the dedication and commitment and service to our people of Guam. And so that is from, again, USA Crime Stoppers Region 14 and Guam Crime Stoppers Program, the president, Jim McDonald.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good man.
Okay, so let's go to yesterday afternoon. So all of this was happening when we had our show, right? And so this was at I think it started around 2. I do want to start with, I want to save the conversation about the Veterans Cemetery till after. I want to first focus on.
Okay, I got two public hearings with Sabrina Salas.
It's the same one. It's the same link.
Okay.
I just wanted to break them up.
Okay.
So you're gonna use the same link because they're in the same. During the same day.
Okay.
But go to DeLeon first. So you can click that.
Stand by.
Yeah.
Working this right now. Okay. YouTube properties. Okay.
And so again, this is lost here. Bill 329. Senator Sabrina Salas Mantanani again says that Bill 329 is designed to give Guam families more options when caring for elderly relatives and people with disabilities. She said many families are struggling because their loved ones may need help with daily activities such as taking medications, preparing meals, transportation, personal care, and supervision. However, many of these individuals do not need to live in a nursing home. And at the same time, people with physical, intellectual, developmental, or behavioral disabilities often need supportive housing that allows them to live safely and independently within the community. And so, according to Senator Salas Mantanani, Guam currently lacks a complete legal system for these types of community-based care services. As a result, families often have only two choices: care for their loved ones entirely on their own, or place them in a more restrictive facility that may not be the best fit. So Bill 329 would create Guam's first comprehensive framework for home and community-based services. The bill would establish rules and regulations, licensing requirements, safety standards, and resident protections. And this would be for different types of community-based care settings. The settings would include assisted living residences, adult family care, group homes, independent living communities, adult day programs, transitional housing, service-enriched housing, and other community-based support programs. Now, there is another bill, Bill 31. Bill 31, introduced by Senator Will Parkinson, focuses mainly on assisted living facilities and placed them under Guam's existing nursing home laws. Bill 329 is broader than that. So instead of focusing only on assisted living, it creates an entirely separate system for a wide range of home and community-based services. And so one major feature of the bill is a tiered licensing structure. This means different types of facilities would be regulated according to the services they provide rather than forcing all providers to meet the same standards. And so Mantanani says that Bill 329 is not only about helping senior citizens. It is also intended to help people with disabilities by giving them more opportunities to live independently, work in their communities, participate in community life, receive support in the least restrictive environment possible. And so the bill is ultimately about dignity, independence, and choice, says Senator Mantanani. And so this would help Guam's Manumco age in place, people with disabilities live more independently, and families and caregivers receive more support, and then build a stronger long-term care system for future generations. So June De Leon from the University of Guam Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities Education, Research, and Service, or better known as CEDARS, is in support of the bill's goal. She does say that CEDARS was included in the bill's rulemaking process and appreciates being recognized as a partner. She said many of the values reflected in Bill 329 align with CEDAR's mission of inclusion, community integration, independent living, and supportive services for people with disabilities. Her main concern, just like the bill that was heard earlier with the Veteran Cemetery, is funding. So we'll play that. This again is Ms. June De Leon of CEDARS.
Introduce yourself and your title.
Yes, thank you. My name is June De Leon. I'm from the University of Guam, Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities Education, Research, and Service, CEDARS. So in looking at, and so that's UOG CEDARS. Looking at the bill, I was included, or our unit was included as part of the rulemaking section 7A123. We definitely appreciate being involved in this bill, and especially in the rulemaking aspect, because, you know, for us, all the values that I see, as you had reported, are we good? Okay. Right, our values that we hold, especially with the the Developmental Disabilities Act and looking at individuals with disabilities. I mean,
It's buffering. We lost like internet access or something.
Looks that way. Yeah. Let me see if I can start from beginning and. Okay, looks like we're back on.
Okay.
Here we go.
You can just play it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
this is an opportunity to really look at that for individuals with disabilities as well as our manamku, right? I've shared the bill with our leadership, the University of Guam, and they do appreciate being included. We at the University of Guam, of course, is your university, and we appreciate being a trusted source for our community. The concern that we have on the bill, and you know, my colleagues or my partners will maybe share a little bit more of that, is when I look at Section 7A 123, it provides the composition of the rulemaking sort of committee, right? CEDARS, my partner Guam Legal Services, and of course the stakeholders convening for this HCBS waiver program. It talks about the 180 days promulgation requirement. Then in Section 7A 125, it speaks to the director's report, and this is where, you know, I'm going to look to and defer to the Director of Public Health in their perspective about this bill. But in writing a report within 180 days that speak to the budget needed to look at funding for including, it says, rulemaking. So I guess I'm kind of confused in that you've included us in this process, which we appreciate, because at the University of Guam, CEDARS in particular, our charge is to really look at training, technical assistance, dissemination of information around individuals with disabilities, and how do we improve inclusive services for this population from birth through adulthood, right? So I appreciate that. But the question comes is, again, maybe the funding. We're not talking about Bill 321 though. We're talking about Bill 329. But this is still a cause in that maybe the director funding for including, it says, rulemaking. So I guess I'm kind of confused in that you've included us in this process, which we appreciate, because at the University of Guam, CEDARS in particular, our charge is to really look at training, technical assistance, dissemination of information around individuals with disabilities, and how do we improve inclusive services for this population from birth through adulthood, right? So I appreciate that. But the question comes is, again, maybe the funding. We're not talking about Bill 321 though. We're talking about Bill 329. But this is still a cause in that maybe the director from the public health has more insights, but I don't see any specific support in funding, even in the convening of the rulemaking group, right? Or how that goes about with stakeholders, and really learning from the community, the island of Guam, what does assistive living looks like? What is the notion of integrated community services, you know, and so forth, right? And so that will take time, 180 days. I'll defer to public health in that regards, but I'll also defer the aspect of, you know, let's think through this bill, because if there's not funding to support the time and effort to really pull it together, meaning the regulations, right, and the requirements for implementation, then I'm not sure. It also mentions that the director can request the budget for succeeding budget years. So then I'm thinking, okay, this 180 days will come about, but then does that mean he's going to request for funding for next fiscal year effective October 2027. So already a whole year has gone by. So thank you again for including your University of Guam. We appreciate this, but I have just some questions, and I've shared that about the funding aspect of it. But
all right. And so again, she's concerned, Ms. DeLeon is concerned that about the bill requiring regulations to be developed within 180 days. And she said she does not see any funding included to support that work. Who will pay for the meetings? Who will pay for stakeholder engagement? Who will fund community outreach? Who will support the development of regulations? And then creating meaningful system requires substantial work, including learning what Guam residents want, determining how assisted living should operate, defining integrated community services, developing regulations and standards. All of that takes time and resources.
Wow.
And so DeLeon also questions how the timeline would work. The bill requires the report within 180 days. That includes funding recommendations. And so the rules could be written within 180 days. Funding might not be requested until the next budget cycle. And you just heard her saying the actual implementation could be pushed back by a year or maybe even more. So she was wanting to hear from Public Health, which Mr. Peter John Camacho was there on behalf of Director Teresa Arreola. I believe he's a deputy director, right?
Yes.
So he had a lot of feedback, right? I mean, he went, I think, 5 pages, and so we won't share all of that. However, he does say Bill 329 gives Public Health a big new responsibility, creating, regulating, licensing, and overseeing a whole new system of home and community-based services. And so Public Health would need to write rules and regulations, create licensing standards, monitor providers, coordinate with existing laws, make sure Guam follows federal Medicaid rules. This will cost money and require staffing and administrative support.
Wow.
There's also concern about using MIP money. So he says that's a major concern. The attempt to use the medically indigent program as a temporary funding source. Said MIP is not a good fit for this bill. MIP serves people who do not qualify for Medicaid or Medicare and who meet strict income and resource limits. But the home and community-based services waiver being discussed under Medicaid would serve people who are enrolled in Medicaid. So Public Health said these are 2 different populations. MIP is funded only with local money and is already stretched thin. Most of the money is already used for St. Dominic's Senior Care Home, and there is no extra money available to cover new services or new facilities. And then there's a concern about using the RanCare facility. Public Health said if the goal is to open the proposed assisted living residence at a RanCare campus before the Medicaid 1915C waiver is ready, lawmakers need to understand that MIP clients and Medicaid clients are not the same group. Public Health says the Medicaid waiver may be ready in just a few months, so using MIP temporarily and then trying to switch to Medicaid later may not work well. So those are just a few of the concerns. And
Pauly, when I was at the legislature, it wasn't in the standing rules, and I'm going to keep saying that because it was pretty much common practice for the senators that whenever you introduce a bill,
where's the funding source?
You have to find a funding source, or else it's dead on arrival.
Well, isn't the general fund the funding source? That's what Senator Chris Duenas said on the previous bill that they talked about. Right?
Well,
However, they argue it because Senator Therese argues it.
Yeah.
Senator Tello argues it. Chris Flores, who we'll share in a little bit, argues that. Director San Augustine argues it. They're arguing the same things here, just on 2 separate bills.
Yeah.
Where's the funding going to come from? You're saying the general fund, but you're not actually appropriating the money.
And then when the bill gets to the floor, you have certain senators that are like, well, we can fix it while we're there. No.
That's what they're saying too.
You can't do that. I mean, you're wasting everybody's
time. We'll debate it on the floor.
And, sadly.
But isn't there a markup? session that we don't get to watch?
Sometimes they don't even, man.
We don't get to watch
it's
the markup
frustrating
session.
because the person introducing this bill loves to make amendments on the floor and fix her bill right on the floor, which is kind of like really not the way to do things. I mean, first off, find funding, because when you have people saying, "Hey, we love the bill, but where's the money?" Where's the brass tacks? It's just going to come down to that, because obviously it's going to be an unfunded mandate when it becomes law, if it does become law. And so,
it would be for the director to say, "Can we have this money? We don't have it in our budget. Can you give it to us now?"
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe, I mean, based on what they were talking about with the Veterans Cemetery, it just makes sense for the director to just ask for the money every time.
Yeah, I mean, and so what
Just
happens?
give
when
me that $1 million.
Yeah, what happens
every time?
What happens when they're short of funding and everything, and they come back to these guys? You guys were supposed to do assisted living, really? Yeah. Well, why don't you assist me with the money?
Yeah, I mean, both of these bills, were asking that same question.
I mean, and the intent of the bill, and I got to give credit where credit is due, Senator Sabrina Salas, good bills. Find the funding.
That's what Miss Attorney Summerflick says.
Don't let the other senators find it for you on session floor, because they're not going to do it. They have their own bills to worry about, their own funding source, and again, this is a sad case, because it's like it's like giving false hope out there when you really think about it.
Well, that's kind of where Summerfleck is saying. I mean, he and I want to share that, but we'll take this break.
Yes.
And then on the other side, Attorney Dan Summerflick has his concerns. He's not necessarily for or against the bill. However, he does have his own concerns, especially with somebody that advocates for those living with disabilities. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll do that on the other side of these right here on Wave 105.
All right. We're going to get straight into it. 3:35 in the afternoon. That means this is our first look at the roads of Guam. When I was coming in, it was actually raining out there. Still wondering if it's raining. But if it is, this gentleman's going to let you know where to go and where not to go on your daily commute. Mr. Pauly Suba, along with Guam Auto Spot, helping you move forward. Buenas.
All right, so there are a number of construction sites on the roadways, right? So let's start with construction activities along Route 10 from June 15 to June 20, right? Contractor crews will be working at various locations within the intersections throughout the week. Again, the intersection of 4 and 10. Intermittent lane closures in both directions are expected during work hours. That's 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Striping work at Cortes and Torres and Route 10 intersection, and then the loop sensor installation at Route 15 and Route 10 intersection as well. Saturday, June 20, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., there are pavement repairs at the Route 10 and Route 4 intersection for milling and paving. Sunday, June 21st, no work scheduled. However, work may be performed from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. if needed. And then they are doing the island-wide safety improvement on primary roads, striping and marking Route 1 from Route 27 to Anderson Air Force Base. So construction activities will continue along Route 1 from June 15 to June 19. Contractor crews will be working at various locations along this area of Route 1 throughout the week, and intermittent lane closures in both directions are expected during work hours. So Monday through Friday, June 15 to June 19, 9 a.m. to 4 between Route 27 and Juan Jacinto Road. That's Hoffaday Market or near Hoffaday Market. They'll be installing pavement markings and markers. And so that's your latest right here on Wave 105, helping you move forward with Guam Auto Spot. Schedule that test drive today. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
Let's play a game. The rewards are high if played right. In the game, you can receive an education, choose a career, buy property, get married, and so much more. Success in the game doesn't rely on luck, chance, or even strategy. To win, you must know the rules. The Constitution is the rulebook for our game. It tells the players, you, me, the government, what's fair, what's foul, and who makes the calls. Learn the Constitution. Use it, defend it, and win, because if you don't know the rules, you can't win the game.
Freedom. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
This This Father's Day, level up Dad's Ride with 20% off Nano Ceramic Coating. Go Global HP for style or Extreme Ceramic to beat the heat. Call 647-SLAM. Detailing and gift certificates available.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
Celebrate Dad in style at Roots Hills Grill House at Guam Plaza Resort. Join our special Father's Day brunch with prime cuts, seafood, and sweet treats. Adults, $85. Children, $42.50. Make it a day Dad won't forget.
Raise your eyes to the sky for a symbol of national pride that actually started out as a controversial high school homework assignment. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 16th.
As we wave our banners for National Flag Week, the design of our current 50-star American flag features a brilliant origin story born from a classroom critique. In 1958, a 17-year-old Ohio high school student named Bob Heft anticipated the statehood of Alaska and Hawaii. For a history class project, he spent 12 hours meticulously cutting and stitching a new grid pattern for the 50 stars. His teacher handed the project back with a deflating B- grade, telling him the design lacked creativity. However, Heft boldly sent his prototype directly to the White House, where President Eisenhower personally selected it out of thousands of entries to become our official national banner. This week, display Old Glory outside your home with pride, and never let a critic downsize your biggest ideas. It might be worth extra credit.
You know, I'm betting some of the kids in that class got A's. And what they did doesn't have the standing power that the flag has.
Yeah, it's interesting that teacher gave it a B- grade.
We are also celebrating World Sea Turtle Day and National Fudge Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Founded in the early days of the web and still going strong today, Pair Networks now hosts over 150,000 websites for its demanding customers worldwide. Setting the standards for excellence, Pair Networks has a technical and support staff that's second to none. A highly stable company with top-of-the-line technology, Pair Networks offers total reliability and flexibility for your website, and even a money-back guarantee. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Make the move today. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks. World-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
The road to Adelup is here. And this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Toriz Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
running around, hanging with the crowd, putting your business in the street, talking out loud, saying you bought her this and that and how much you done spent. I swear she must believe it's all heaven sent. Hey boy, you better bring the chick around to the side, side, to that dirty low down. I wonder. Taught her how to talk like that.
Welcome back to the show. 3:44 in the afternoon. This is the Bright Side right here on Wave 105. My name is Ryan Nicholas. Always a pleasure picking up this gentleman right here, Mr. Pauly Suba.
All right, welcome back. Wave 105. Let's see here. Okay, so Bill 329 again is a bill that is going to assist with assisted living, right? And so here is Attorney Dan Summerflick, right?
Yeah.
And so again, he has his concerns too. And he even questions whether MIP should even be expanded, but he also doesn't necessarily. He actually commends them for the bill. He actually appreciates the bill. However, I mean, his role in the community and what he's taken on is advocating for those with disabilities. And so I just want to share his concerns because what he says, even outside of the clip that we're going to share, is deep. There's a crisis happening with foster children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just saw another statement on that, but we'll do it on the other side of Attorney Summerflick's testimony again on Bill 329.
It's nice to see Peter John again. Always a pleasure. I'm not coming to support or not support the bill. I don't think that's my role. I'm coming more from the prospect of concern. And my concern is that we are at the tip of an iceberg with these community-based waivers. And right now, as was mentioned, in a couple months we'll open we should have our first community-based waiver. That waiver was intended to cover individuals who are at Guam Memorial Hospital or at Guam Regional Medical Center who can't be released because there's no place for them to go. Very, very straightforward. When you start looking at the numbers, though, what was 15 people is now like 3 people. They don't want, they're not eligible for Medicaid, they don't fit the program, various other issues. We have right now in our inventory a beautiful big building. It's in Tamuning. It probably has 20 apartment units available in it. And I don't think we can open it because we don't have a program for it. And that is my concern with this bill, that we have various programs out there. We don't have various waivers, and I've been an advocate for waivers for an extended period of time. Why have I not sued the government of Guam over the waiver issue? Because we're capped. Our Medicaid is capped. Other than during the pandemic, we've always been capped. So one of the questions I have, because it's never been enough up to now, and this is the question I also have with the waivers, if those waivers are taking money off of our general Medicaid, who's not going to get services? and what services aren't we going to be able to provide. The idea of expanding the MIP program, in my opinion, is continuing a failed process. My understanding of MIP was it was created because we opened St. Dominic's and it didn't make Medicaid standards. So we had to have a funding source for St. Dominic's so we would have a nursing care facility. Is that what we're doing also here? And how much money are we going to have to put in to MIP? Well, Peter John kind of answered that. There's no extra money in MIP. So where is the money to fund MIP going to come from? And at that point, do we want to fund MIP, or do we want to directly fund programs that provide services to our consumers? Oftentimes, we as a government look toward the federal government to solve our troubles. I would bring up SSI as one example. We're constantly complaining why the federal government does not give us SSI on Guam. Why our people don't receive it? Well, the reality is we are somewhat receiving it. We're receiving a small sliver of it called the Aid to the Permanently Blind and Disabled, which existed prior to Social SSI, but it's not as much. So the question in my mind's eye is, if SSI is so important, why aren't we funding it like states do? States get SSI money, but then they supplement it. We're receiving Aid to the Permanently Blind and Disabled, but we're not supplementing. So I bring this up to you because I represent a lot of low-income people. I represent a lot of persons with disabilities. And the question that I see coming in this is, where are they? Where are they in this bill? We have person-centered planning. It's part of the permanent injunction. It's called a multidisciplinary treatment team plan. I would ask you, if you ask the department today, how updated are they and how accurate are they? And do they even have the resources to develop a multidisciplinary plan? We talk about a person-centered plan here. We talk about services that are person-centered. What does that mean? Does that mean we're going to provide occupational therapy? Does that mean we're going to provide physical therapy, home-based services? What do these terms really mean is what my concern would be. I'm more than happy, as I did with the Department of Mental Health over 20 years, to help them develop a system. I'm not so inclined to say I'm going to spend the next 20 years working on community-based waivers that can be used for other than the populations I represent. Do I care about our Mononco? Yes. Am I becoming one of a Mononco? Yes. But my mission is persons with disabilities. And I have to say, I would prefer our money goes to the young and for their success than providing me a place to live. I would rather have a place for our children to live. And I would point out to you one of our other programs that we have, and that is a program for children in foster care system. Is that the roadmap for what's going to happen here? We build a facility for 24 people, then we pack in 48?
All
Is
right,
that what
there
the
you go.
plan is
And
going
so
to eventually become?
He compares it to the foster care system. He said the foster parents currently receive the same payment regardless of whether they care for an infant or a teenager. This is what he was getting at with serious behavioral or legal issues. He suggests Guam should create levels of care across different systems so higher need cases receive more support and funding. Said the same idea applies for Bill 329. Guam should define different levels of care and fund them properly. And so, although he does raise many concerns, he said he likes many of the ideas in Bill 329. He supports the concept of creating levels of care, funding different levels of care, opening the door for private businesses to provide services, and building alternatives for seniors and the people with disabilities. The concepts are new for Guam and worth pursuing, right? And so, again, he is really concerned, again, with a number of questions that he asked earlier. Who will write the plans? Who will meet with consumers? What services will be included? Will it include occupational therapy, physical therapy, in-home help, daily living support? And so, the rulemaking may take longer than 180 days. There are 3 people that said that. The only 3 people that testified: Cedars, Public Health, and Mr. Summerfleck.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's still a lot that needs to happen. I mean, Senator Sabrina Salas-Manzanani even said that they should have more roundtable meetings on this. Maybe in the markup. Maybe
How about
they should discuss it even
she
more.
She should have done that prior to releasing this bill. Get all the input from all these agencies, all these people, all these players, and then come up with a bill. Because I'm pretty sure the question of funding would have been
There's no clear funding source.
Yeah.
And that's what all 3 looked. They all looked at each other. And they were all sitting there for about 2 hours listening to the veterans talk about the veteran cemetery and the bill that Vice Speaker Tony Atta has introduced. And they were just like that, just like the concerns of the veterans. Where's the funding source? Where's the real funding source for this? And so it's going to be the general fund, but it's not this. It's not in the bill itself. So
with the BPT lowering of the BPT, you can almost, it's safe to say that the general fund is not going to be having the money.
Maybe it will. Senator Chris Duenas believes it does. He shared it. He went through it yesterday morning afternoon on the Veteran Cemetery, because there's a lot of back and forth between him, Mr. Amagwin, Mr. Chris Flores, and so there was a lot of back and forth. And I do want to play a good amount of that.
Yeah.
We'll wait till the 4 o'clock hour, though, because I don't want to break up these clips.
Yeah.
But on the foster care situation, again, we are in a crisis. There is a release that is coming out again that is stating Child Protective Services is facing a crisis with a rising influx in foster children needing care. So there's a call out. And so there's a call out to ask church community groups and small groups to push out this information to recruit more foster families. Specifically, the statement that was sent to me, more Christian foster families.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
at this point,
it doesn't
matter. If you meet the qualifications
Right.
and good moral standing,
Right.
that should be the standard.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, in this call out says we have 51 kids in one shelter and 12 kids in another shelter.
Wow.
Ages 2 to 18, 6 children up for adoption, several babies needing placement, and the crisis is at an all-time high. We have a huge need for foster parents. If you are at all interested in learning about the foster care crisis, how to be a foster parent, and the application process, please come to the Harvest House Training Center this Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, I might just go over there.
And
This
then,
Thursday?
Yes, this Thursday night. I have a phone number,
Mm.
671-864-9569.
Mm.
671-864-9569.
Yeah.
Mr. Summerflick was also sharing, again, when it comes to foster care, a parent gets the same stipend, whether you are caring for an infant or caring for a teenager that might be, facing some, the juvenile system could be right behind the individual.
I've always, and it was my good friend Mindy Fothergill Uggan. She ended up being one of those big sister, big brother. She got in the program, and I was always inspired. I've always was interested in doing something like that. Where you just bring in a kid that needs encouragement and all of that. Are they still doing that? I mean, aside from the foster thing, I know that, but yeah, that is something to look into. I mean, because there are a lot of people that probably won't be able to foster, but they're there to help, steer the child in.
Oh
in the
yeah,
right way.
there is a program where you can assist. You can basically hang out with the foster child while the foster parents are maybe just getting some respite, right? Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, I would love to bring
take a
a
break
foster
from
child here.
couple hours.
Big
take
Brother's
them
going
to
to
the
show
movies.
you how to be a producer.
Yeah, take them to the movies. Take them to the park.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great.
That program exists.
Okay. Well, if I do go there tomorrow,
All you got to do is contact BOSA.
Yeah.
You don't even. I mean, here's this number, 671-864-9569. But the government facility within public health is BOSA, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Child Protective Services, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. I mean, yeah. I mean, and it was always my daughter too. It's like, Dad, when we see the stuff in the news and everything, it's like we should help. I'm like, all right. Do you have any clothes you want to give away or something?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to help. And then, watching and knowing, what Mindy did. Was very inspiring, and I'm pretty sure my daughter would have helped out in that regard. Like, hey, okay, if we're your big brother, I'm your big sister type thing, or I'm your sister, and we'll go shopping, and of course that's going to come out of my pocket, but
yeah,
but anything to help the kids out there.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Right. We'll take the break.
Yes.
All right, and then on the other side, we'll focus a lot of our energy on the expansion of the Veterans Cemetery.
Yes.
This is Wave 105 KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Pakistani mediators say an initial agreement between the U.S. and Iran to extend their ceasefire is to be formally signed Friday. That's despite questions over the fate of Tehran's nuclear program, Israel's offensive in Lebanon, and Jennifer King reports
when a fifth of the world's crude oil will start flowing again.
We've been in this situation before where there's a deal that may be imminent, but then it falls apart.
Gas Buddy analyst Patrick DeHaan.
It's still too early to say the coast is clear.
Bryce Borton was at the gas pump in Columbus, Ohio, where price drops in the oil market have yet to reach consumers.
It's definitely hitting the pocketbook, and it's obviously hitting, the price of groceries and everything else as well.
Oil producers that throttled back will need time, and Lloyd's analyst Richard Mead says the shipping sector is not rushing back to the Strait of Hormuz. Capital Economics estimates that by September, energy flows will reach 80% of pre-war levels. I'm Jennifer King.
The U.S. Air Force says 8 people aboard a B-52 bomber were killed when it crashed shortly after takeoff at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California Monday. No immediate word on the cause. And Lisa Dwyer reports a beagle breeding and research facility in Wisconsin is closing.
And its remaining dogs are being taken in by a Florida rescue group. Lori Simmons with Big Dog Ranch Rescue says they have reached an agreement for the permanent closure of Ridgeland Farms.
With this agreement, Big Dog Ranch Rescue will have completed the full rescue and relocation of 2,110 beagles.
The rescue group says some of the beagles will be sent to its Florida and Alabama campuses, where they will be spayed, neutered, and prepared for adoption.
Not one dog will remain.
Simmons says her group is also working closely with the Trump administration to stop funding studies that subject dogs to invasive and painful experimentation. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
This is AP News. Up for auction.
A rare first edition of Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, complete with spelling mistakes, as the romance gains new fans through the movie earlier in the year with Margot Robbie.
What should you do, Heathcliff? If you were rich?
Christie's Auction House said Monday it's the first copy of the novel in the publisher's original cloth binding to be auctioned since 1908. Only about 250 copies of the first edition were printed. This one has been in a private library since shortly after its publication in 1847. The book, along with a copy of her sister Anne Bronte's Agnes Grey, is expected to sell for between $540,000 and $800,000 at a June 30th auction in London. Both books carry their male pen names, Ellis Bell for Emily, Acton Bell for Anne. I'm Julie Walker.
There are more stories at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM-FM, Dedido, the talk of Guam. This is Wave 105.1 FM, a Glimpses media radio station.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. You may not have heard of Mary Kay and Johnny, but it was the first American situation comedy series, premiering in 1947. The most famous sitcom of all starred a redheaded comedic genius and her real-life husband, who changed television forever when he created the first comedy series shot on film, I Love Lucy.
Hello, friends. I'm here by to meet a Benjamin girl.
The beloved series is an indelible part of the American fabric, comedy that has earned immortality status.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Do you hear that? And that? And that? Those are the sounds of a healthy and vibrant community. And to this United Way volunteer, nothing sounds better. They're the sounds of children being given greater chances to succeed in school. The sounds of neighbors receiving the support needed to overcome challenges, both big and small. They're the sounds of families gaining access to quality health care and nutritious food for their tables. And they're the sounds of members of our community who've benefited from United Way's financial education programs. See, wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way. People working together to respond and growing the good for everyone. United is the way. So join us by getting involved or giving back. Learn more at unitedway.org.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey. Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, may I ask a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog.
Great. Do you have a pool outside?
Nope, just a big old backyard.
Nice. Another question. Are there any unlocked guns in the home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's just talk about what we can bring for dessert.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
My name is Erica. My son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burned. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide.
He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kaysen is still here. Go online right now to loveshiners.org.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe San Augustine and former Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
Welcome back to the show. We are KGUM FM, Dedido Guam. This is the Bright Side right here on Wave 104. Sending it back to Pauly Suba.
We do want to thank our sponsors, Triple J. And again, right now at Triple J Ford, get a free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. GTA, we start with you. And Micropack, Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at Micropack. As well as Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. And Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh.
You know what I forgot? I forgot to do
no
traffic.
Worries. We're good. Let's do it.
All right, he's going to help you move forward on your daily commute. Proudly being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. Standing by, Pauly Suba.
All right. I mean, we can make this quick and just say there's no traffic.
Really?
We can just move right along, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, let's just do our due diligence, though. I really don't see too many issues, right? I mean, I know that there were some traffic crashes, but that was even before the show started, too.
Okay.
So we are looking at some delays coming down Route 10A, again, Airport Road, right? Good news that they're going to start working on that area and expand the roadway there. The not so good news is do we need that much parking over at Airport Road? Because apparently we're going to lose some. We're going to lose that parking that's all facing to Route 10A.
Okay.
That whole strip right there will.
Wow.
Because they're expanding Route 10A.
Nice.
So we'll lose all of that. Depending on what time you go, the parking lot's full.
Yeah.
It's very full. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it makes
some
the
good
commute,
news, not so good news. The good news, again, sidewalks, right? I mean, because what's the alternative? Leave the sign there that just says no walking? No walking. Well, what is the fine for no walking over there on where there's no sidewalk? I don't even think there's a fine.
Yeah.
It's just a sign that says don't walk there.
I don't even think.
But if you do, what's the fine? How much am I being fined?
I don't think you can do that. I mean, they do have crossing the road.
I mean, there's jaywalking, and you'll get caught jaywalking, so maybe that's where they're going to get him. Oh, there's no crosswalk.
Yeah.
How did you get over to this side?
Yeah.
You must have jaywalked.
Yeah.
But other than that, just walking on the side of the road, what's the fine on that?
But it's incumbent of the government to actually make access easier and legal. And
I understand the reason for the sign.
Yeah.
They want to keep people safe, right? Especially our visitors that are walking. But I'm just like, well, I mean, the other alternative is provide transportation, right?
Yeah.
And why don't we do that?
They should like build a bridge,
That
one of
too.
those
But in the
overhead
meantime, I mean, if you have this, the buses that go from Donkey to Kmart down to the hotels, just add the airport, and you know when these planes are coming in. So I mean, that's an extra cost. But I'm telling you, the visitors would appreciate that. I know I would.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
I mean, well, like I'll give you a case example.
Real quick though, let's thank our sponsor.
Yeah.
Helping you move forward.
Yes.
I know that's a whole nother issue, right? Guam Auto Spot, we appreciate you. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com. So you don't have to walk.
Yeah, we'll help you move forward.
Yeah, so you don't have to walk.
Well, okay, I'm a smoker, and I was in Hawaii, and they were like, yeah, the smoking section is all the way there. And I'm like, but you're going to have to get out of the airport. And I'm like, oh, man, forget it. Yeah, there are some times where I feel like quitting's probably the best thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for making it even more inconvenient for smokers. Make it more inconvenient. But we're talking about walking here.
No.
You're making it very inconvenient for people that are trying to just walk to where they need to go.
See, it's stuff like that stresses me out. That's why I need a cigarette.
All right, so you're about to get stressed out with Bill
Okay.
321.
Yes.
Right?
All right.
Okay, so the bill creates a dedicated fund called the Guam Veterans Cemetery Renovation and Expansion Fund. It's funny how it's called a fund because there's no funding source. So when you look at the bill, right, when you look at creating this special fund called the Guam Veterans Cemetery Renovation and Expansion Fund to help fix and expand the Guam Veterans Cemetery, they go through the several problems: poor maintenance and upkeep, crumbling mausoleum walls and structures that hold the cremated remains, not enough burial space for future veterans, no clear plan to acquire more land for expansion, all of that. So how are we going to fund it? The bill does not actually appropriate money into the fund. Instead, it requires GOVA to request at least $1 million every year in its budget and continuing to ask the legislature for $1 million every year in its budget for at least 10 years. So continue. Isn't that what they do already? Isn't that? Can you give us every year? Is there no money for the cemetery expansion that they ask every year?
There's nothing in the bill that would direct the GOVA to like at least look for.
Oh yes,
grants?
they talk about the grants.
Okay.
That's a big part of the conversation.
Because you got the National Cemetery deal over there at DC.
And they bring that up. Didn't you say money is in the bank? I mean, right here on Vet Talk, Governor Lou Leongro did say to the veterans,
yes,
on Vet Talk, the money's in the bank.
Yeah.
However, Jose San Agustin, the director, goes, that's old news already. I've already. And to be fair, he has addressed it.
Yeah.
He has addressed it many times already, saying that statement was premature. We all know that it wasn't in the bank.
Yeah.
And sorry we got to walk that all back, but there's so many issues with directors that came before him. And so there was damage control that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But again, when Governor Lou Leongro said that, he tried to correct it, and we're still saying, well, didn't you say? Well, people do make mistakes, or we do make these comments on the record prematurely, and then you can't forget that somebody said after the fact that that wasn't true. So I agree with Jose San Agustin that that's old news.
So
and it's already been stated on the record.
Was he director?
That was, and he was director.
He was director at the time.
And of course he's not going to say the governor's wrong. That's his boss. However, he has said that's not true. The money is not in the bank.
Well,
and this is why there might have been reasons.
And well, to be fair, all across the board. Yes, it has been brought up. Yes, the governor made a mistake, but being director, That's what you're there for. You're there
But it
to
wasn't
let the
clear with
governor.
the last one. And so I'll just say who he's talking about. He's talking about P. Tim Uggan.
Yeah.
That's who Jose San Augustine's talking about. But he's just trying to be respectful.
No, I get it. But I would have like, if I was governor director, I would have just said, hey, look,
Throw people under the bus?
No, I would no.
Throw the governor?
No,
and Uggan?
I would not throw the governor. I would not definitely throw Pete. And but I would just say, look, before you come out stating this, you need to. And that's what I mean. You put that person there to advise you on what's going on with that agency. And,
Sure.
And so,
Sure.
if there was a mistake on Tim Uggan's behalf, then he should have pointed it out to the governor. Do not come out and make any statements because everything that
It was said
not
to
after
her.
not after the fact.
It was said to her by people in her cabinet that said, "We got it. We got this money."
Yeah.
And then Jose had to go back and say, "We do not."
Yeah, because and I know the process because before, I mean, it was a step-by-step process in order for you to get the grant. In order for you to get to step B, you have to do step A, step C, I mean B, and then C, and then get the full grant and everything. But there were a lot of things that were not happening.
Well, let's just get to it because there's a lot that was said
Yeah.
yesterday at 2 in the afternoon. And so I want to start with Mr. Chris Flores,
Yes.
who basically is saying this bill is half-cocked.
So we're really just wasting our time testifying here because we're testifying of a bill that really doesn't have the muster to make it come to fruition. So, you're talking to a lot of professionals here. All these veterans are professionals. They're highly trained professionals. Yet you bring us down here to provide testimony on a public hearing on a bill, and the funds are not guaranteed. And it really offends me as a veteran when I look at this bill in the preamble of it, and it states, the Guam Veteran Cemetery has been plagued, I hate that word, with numerous problems and setbacks that include the lack of regular maintenance and grounds upkeep. I look at you guys up there sitting. When was the last time you guys go down there and just spend a day down there with the maintenance crew and see actually what they do every day? Instead of just showing up there on Memorial Day, walking around with your fancy clothes and shaking people's hands, shaking our hands, and thinking that our world is fine. Our world is not fine. We have a lot of hidden scars here. Okay, I may not have a battle scar on me, but I have battle scars in my heart. And when you start messing around with us veterans, bringing us down here to entertain a bill that, is half-cocked, I really get upset. And my wife told me to, be calm and be nice, but that's not my nature. I worked for a lot of generals that told me, Chris, the day that you stop loving what you're doing, you need to go do something else once you're retired, because in a retirement state, I can go anywhere and work anywhere. I'm not bound by nobody. I'm not bound by this administration. I'm not bound by nobody. It's sad to say that, I'm a Republican. The founder of the Republican Party, former Governor Carlos Camacho, who I have high respect for, because I was just a kid growing up when my mom said, hey, we got to go campaign for your uncle. But it bothers me when I see a Republican president, a Republican Senate in the Congress, a Republican House, a Republican Congress representative for our island, and a majority of Republican senators here in the People's House, which I really don't think this is the People's House, because I don't know how many times I come down here and give testimony, and it looks like it just goes in one ear and out the other when I talk to you folks. And it always comes down to funding and staffing personnel. You guys give a lot of money away. And what really bothers me is you gave $11 million to the airline industry. And what have we gained from it? Nothing. We had a bad return on investment on that 11 million. A bad return on investment. That 11 million could have cleaned up our parks, our veteran cemetery, maybe hired a few people. But you know the bottom line, you know what the veteran cemetery needs really? Is for Joe to hire a PC3 or a PC4 so he can go after those grants that's available out there. You know, I work at the Guam State Clearinghouse, and I see those kids in there. I call them kids because I could be their fathers. But they're heavy on writing grants, and they get a lot of grants for Gulf Guam. Okay? And man, I applaud them. But that's what the Guam Veteran Cemetery needs, is they need a grant writer so they can go after those federal grants and not have to come here and beg for pennies. And yet you offer $1 million, and what are we don't even know where the million is going to come from. You guys just said that last week the sky was falling, we got to freeze hiring, you know. You guys reduced the BPT from 5 to 4.5, now it's going to go into 4. You gave a big tax break for the big businesses. We still haven't seen the prices go down because you said the BPT is going to cause that. It's going to cause the prices to go down and that the shoppers are going to benefit from it. I'm glad I shop in the commissary because I see the prices go down there when they have a lot of big sales. They have sales outside, but it doesn't match to the commissary. And what really bothers me a lot is where it says, government of Guam has failed. You know what that tells me? The director of GOVA has failed, and I don't see him as a failure. I'm sorry. He's you know, you don't retire in the military with a high rank being a failure. And Joe has every right to contest this language in here, but he didn't. But I'm going to contest it. That he has failed to both secure sufficient federal funds. Well, that's out of his control. He doesn't have a grant writer. But you guys can change effect of that and change his staffing pattern and let him have a grant writer, PC3 or PC4. And commit to local funding, which again, he has to beg, borrow, or I don't want to say steal because that's unethical. The Chapa has been out of commission for 16 years in the Republican Party, but this administration got it back up to par. Now it's being used. Like I said, I'm a Republican. I didn't believe in the Tenorio Ada team, but, you know, further on in the bill it states, this bill states that funding depends on the appropriation of the Guam. I don't know what part of Guam that is, but it says appropriation of the Guam, and if not able to afford the funding, that the statement on its website, whatever, official finance and budget. But where it says, the bill states that funding depends, hell, I'm 68 years old, I'm glad I don't have depends yet, but, you know, I don't know what that means. And then further on down it says, I don't want to talk about that. And then let me see my other notes here. I think that's the last of it. So I would just say, you know, Steve touched on this, that Simon Sanchez High School has been in the works since 2013. That was under the Cobb administration. 2018 to present, the Lungar administration has at least moved that football field, or moved the football down the field a little bit. We're still not there yet because we have an AG that is just holding on to a lot of paperwork. I would say in closing, I hope you guys are listening, but you know, we're just spinning our wheels here, man. And as a veteran, as a professional, all these veterans that are professionals here, we don't like to spin our wheels. We may gripe a lot and complain a lot, but we know what it takes to make things happen. And having the funds not having the funds to do or make anything happen, that's already a killer. And in closing, I'd just like to say, take this bill and really work on it. Find the funding source instead of playing the guessing game every year that the GOVA director, whoever it's going to be, because there's going to be a new GOVA director once the new administration sits down, coming in here and asking for $1 million whether we don't even know where it's coming from. It's just sad. It's just so sad that I had to take leave and come down here and waste my time down here for almost an hour giving testimony for something that is half-cooked, half-baked, doesn't have no meat and potatoes. It's got nothing but garlic on it. Just a bad taste in my mouth.
This bill has nothing but garlic on it. And so when you look at the bill, right, again, it requires GOVA to request at least $1 million every year in its budget, continue making that request for at least 10 years. And so the director of the agency will ask for $1 million annually, at least $10 million in requested funding, right? So at least, hopefully, every year, the legislature agrees to give the $1 million for 10 years. However, the legislature is not required to approve the request, and it's in this bill. The bill does not identify a funding source such as the general fund, federal grants, tobacco taxes, or any other revenue source. Money would only be deposited into the fund if the legislature approves appropriations. And then, if the legislature refuses to fund the request or provides less than the requested amount, the bill requires the Office of Finance and Budget to publish an explanation on its website stating why the funding was reduced or denied. However, there is no penalty if funding is not provided. And that is why I see these veterans upset. Why I definitely see why Chris Flores is upset.
No,
and then even Steve Amagwin.
I mean, I don't know if it's ever been done like that. Where
that's why I want to get to Vice Speaker Tony Atta, because he makes sense of it as to why he's like, I'm not trying to be combative here. And Senator Chris Duenas says the same thing. We're trying to help.
Yeah.
And they're getting to, I guess, some of the meat and potatoes as to, well, what happened to some of the grants? What happened to some of the funding that we said was possibly, money in the bank? And that's what I want to get to, because it's important when we're talking about this bill in particular. And so do we want to just do that now, or do we want to take the break? That's another 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, let's take the break.
Okay.
Let's do traffic right about now, and then we'll go into our break.
All right.
Here we go. Once again, 4:31 in the afternoon. That means we're going to check out the roads of Guam.
Sure, yeah.
Standing by, Mr. Pauly Suba.
All right, so we do have an update on the crash that happened near Mighty Payless on Route 8, right? So again, this happened at around 3:18 this afternoon. One adult female was transported to GRMC for non-fatal injuries. Again, that is an update from the Guam Police Department. It's now 4:32 in the afternoon, but I know that was something that we were paying attention to earlier on in the show. Other than that, when I look at Route 8 now, I don't see too many issues even in that area. So it's obviously cleared up. But I do see heavy congestion in Route 1, especially in the Tamuning area, from the ITC intersection all the way to the village of Donkey. And so just expect those delays. Even southbound, I'm starting to see even. So maybe that's not common in this time. So that's definitely out of the ordinary. We try to figure out what the issue is because, yeah, I'm seeing southbound congestion heading towards the ITC as well. All right, so once again, helping you move forward on this Tuesday afternoon is Guam Auto Spot. Call them up, 478 Auto. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
We know what we wish to protect. Our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson stated, "Knowledge is power, knowledge is safety, knowledge is happiness, and the cost of ignorance is extraordinary." Read it, study it, cherish it, wield the power granted by the United States Constitution, because the power of knowledge is just as extraordinary. Do you wield the power?
Liberty. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Why be at the forefront of childhood cancer research? At St. Jude, we do it because every innovation we make is a moment we give to children with cancer everywhere. But we can't do it without you. Help St. Jude give children with cancer more moments. Moments that can last a lifetime. Learn more at stjude.org.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
Hi, human. I'm a micro monster, swimming around in your plastic water bottle. But I can't wait to swim in your bloodstream soon.
Microplastics are micro monsters.
Drink me. Wait, what are you doing?
But you can fight back by using glass or metal reusable water bottles.
No!
Don't let microplastic micro monsters invade your body. Find more ways to fight back at stopmicromonsters.org.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
Balanced, fair, thoughtful. Wave 105 FM.
I said if I can't feel it, then how could it be? No magic, it happened to me. And then I saw you, I couldn't believe it. You took my heart, I couldn't retrieve it. Said to myself, what's it all about? Now I know there can be no
4:37 in the afternoon. Welcome back to the show. This is the Bright Side right here on Wave 105. Let's bring back the host, Mr. Pauly Suba.
All right, let's just get right back into it on Bill 321, right? So this is Vice Speaker Tony Atta asking the director of GOVA where we are at with the grant funding for the expansion of the Veterans Cemetery.
Funding or through the process, it doesn't come back and bite us in the ass because we made a mistake. But that's where that's at.
So you had a $15 million grant that's already been awarded?
No, it's a pre-application grant.
It's a pre-application grant?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And so for it to be awarded, the design has to be completed by 30 September, then it'll be awarded.
All right. But
And
you
it's-
had grant writers that applied for that.
No, so that was actually originally applied by Lucy Paris and Tim
Tim
Ogden.
Ogden. So this
Yes.
is the original $9 million
That's correct.
grant that was supposedly placed already, the bank was already in the money?
No.
The money was
There-
already in
no,
the bank?
No. And you know better than that, Senator. It's
Mr.
not one of those
Director,
things where we go to the bank and
Director.
apply for a grant and they deposit it. You need to meet those mandates, right? You need to meet those requirements, the pre-application requirements. which-
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, those were not my words, all right? That was in the media on K57 during the vet talk, right? That
It's
the
all
money
news.
was already in the bank.
Senator, it's
all
all
right?
news.
Yeah,
All news.
I understand.
So let's move forward with the 50 million and work with that.
I understand.
The
And that's
50
why this
million
bill, that's why we're working with this bill, so that we can have some type of local funding for our expansion. So, you know, a lot of times, right, and, you know, it's always blamed down here that we're not giving you the people, we're not giving you the resources. But where does your funding come out from? Your funding comes out from the governor's office, am I correct?
That's correct.
All right. Do you go back to the governor's office and let them know what people do you need, what personnel, so that they can give you the personnel?
Senator, I'll tell you where the delay is at now. This is not a blame game.
Right.
Okay? We have to go to DOA. DOA makes the announcement. We tell them this is what they need. This is what we need. They make the announcement. They have to put the announcement out. They have to do the process. They have to do the vetting and all that good stuff. Don't quote me on this, but you know, likewise, in my agency, we're short of personnel. I'm assuming they're suffering the same thing because I'm understanding there's only like 3 or 4 people that kind of reviews the application.
And that's
not a blame.
No, it's not a blame game, but it's the same thing that's been said over and over again, right? Is trying to hire the personnel and trying to get the announcements out, trying to vet the people so that they can get to the different departments and agencies, and it's not happening. So when, you know, it's said that, you know, we're not giving you guys the funding, we're not giving you guys the personnel, that's not here at the legislature. We just give the funding, and then you guys move from there and work with your agencies and the different departments.
Can I please make a comment?
I'm speaking with the director,
okay.
sir. Let me just finish with him, and then I can.
No, I want to piggyback on your question
Now,
to answer.
As soon as
Okay.
I'm done with him, then I can talk with you, sir. So that is what, you know, this legislation is for, right? It's so that we can find the money, start putting it away, and start making expansions or improvements that we need down at the cemetery, because that one whole section of crypts needs to be demolished, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Right? I mean, we all want the same objective. And the same objective is to make sure there's enough burial space for our veterans and their families. This is not about, you know, who's what, right or wrong. This is coming together, just trying to let's put a bill together so that we can, hey, if there's no funding source, let's find a funding source, right? And that's why we come together so that we can make these things happen. But if we don't do anything, then we're going to be in the same position we're at today 10 years from now. Still wondering where we're going to get the funding from. Still wondering if we're going to be able to get grants. But at least we can try and do what we can to ensure that we're able to put money away and start doing our own improvements. And if we get reimbursed or we get grants, even the more better. Because then we can really take care of our veterans. But this is not on you, right? And this is, many directors come and go from the Veterans Affairs. And this is what we just do to ensure that we can continue to move forward, continue to work together. It's just like the East Agana Cemetery. You know, Sergeant Major Mofnas brought that up, and I brought it up with you as well, right? We had to go and paint the cemetery for after Memorial Day. But I didn't want to bring that up. But when things are being thrown at us that, you know, maybe we should go down there and take a look, and maybe we should be, you know, I did. I went down there. My grandfather is buried at that cemetery. So naturally, you know, it's a care that we all want. not just for ourselves, but for our children and our grandchildren, so that at least they can see where our loved ones are buried. I have a grandmother that's buried down at Guam Veterans.
Okay, I got that part.
So taking care of the cemetery is something that we all want to do. And getting this bill forward and moving it along so that we can get money into this fund is going to be beneficial for everyone.
So where's the funding source going to come from, Senator?
And that's what we're going to work with in the general fund.
And that's what they meant, half-cock.
No,
I'm not being smart.
I'm not saying...
But I'll tell you, you stay the course, because the way I see it is it's allowing me to come to the legislature and request for funding when I need it. So if and that's the way I'm putting it. If I identify a need down there, that I need $1 million, or I could use $600,000, contractor get me the quotation, DPW get me the quotation, then I'll put it in. But I'll put it in to request for the next year appropriation to say I need this. Here's my quotation.
And that's where you come in with your annual appropriations, right? When your annual budget.
That's a Marine version. To fix it, because right now it's broken. Their version of half-cock, they're right. Okay, where's it coming from? But if we're true leaders, which is what we're saying we are, then I would think that my piece of comment this afternoon is that in the absence of identifying the funding source, comes the time between now and 10 years that whenever the new administrator, director requests, hey, I need funding, Senator, based on this bill, I need $600,000 to repair, can I get it? And that's the way I imagine this to be. I'm not a senator, was never a senator, but I think that's a smart way to go about it in the absence that no funding source is identified here.
Can I make a comment and piggyback now? Is that okay now? Because I just hear a lot of rambling right now.
You can go ahead, Mr. Flores.
Okay. With all due respect, Vice Speaker Ada, you should be a reporter instead of being a senator. Seriously, because what does the $70 million ARP have to do with this bill and the $1 million you guys are saying you're going to provide for us 10 years in a row? What does the $70 million ARP has to do with that? The governor has the sole purview of spending that money, and if we lose it, we lose it. You know why? We have an AG up there that's sitting on the paperwork and how to spend that money. Now you're telling us, have we asked the governor for the $70 million on ARP funds? Why don't you ask that AG up there to release those documents, sign the documents, approve it or whatever, so we can move on and spend that money? And then the other thing you're saying is, you're saying here that we're going to come together here to find the money. That's not my job. I'm sorry. My job is you tell me where's the money at, and I have the money, then I can go spend it. I can go use it. You're telling him to, when was the last time he asked the governor to hire people? You just put last week, there's a hiring, you want a hiring freeze on this GovGuam and LTAs, and suspend the pay raises, suspend the merit bonus pays.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
It doesn't suspend the merit bonus.
Well, Patty was calling you on the Patty show after she spoke to the lieutenant governor to get your response, and yet you have not responded to her show. You have not even given her a courtesy call to say, I'll call you back on this day or we'll discuss it another time. Okay, so let's not mince words here.
We're not mincing words.
We're here for Bill 321. Exactly. We're not here for 70 million ARP. Okay? Let's stick to this bill, okay? And don't tell us that we need to tell the governor to hire who, because you just put out to freeze the hiring, okay? Freeze the LTAs.
No, I was asking the director if he put any requests down to the governor's office for any personnel.
How are we going to know when you just put out, you're trying to put out legislation to hire freeze?
The $70 million was part of a media release earlier this week or last week.
That we're going to lose it, correct?
They're going to move it to other projects.
Well, it may not be moved to other projects because it depends on what that AG's doing up there with the paperwork.
There's projects that need to be done down at the cemetery that perhaps the governor can give part of that ARP money so that those projects down there can get
Again,
done
we're
and
here
rebuilt.
for the 1 million every year that he has to come back every year to testify or budget hearing to get the million. We're not here for 70 million right now, Senator. I'm sorry.
I understand that, but
you're trying to put apples into a basket of oranges.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
because-
you are.
Thank you. We're
because
going to
guys
move
are
on.
totally
We're going to
against
move
the
on
bill.
with
ARP is
questions
totally
from
separate
other
funding, sir.
senators.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senator Gumatauta, you're next.
We're good. And so,
You're wrong,
I mean,
Chairman.
we'll move on to what Senator
thank you,
Sean
Matt.
Gumatauta asks, right? But again, Vice Speaker Tony Ada explains that his goal is to create a dedicated fund mechanism so that future cemetery improvements do not depend entirely on grants. Again, he points out that some crypts need to be demolished and rebuilt. The cemetery will eventually require expansion, and future directors will continue facing these same issues. And so, even when Director St. Augustine says, he goes, that's the way I see it. I need $600,000 right now. And so if you're saying that a director can come before the legislature and request for $1 million, I'm basically requesting 600 right now for these crypts to get rebuilt, right? And so and that's when Chris Flores interjects and argues again discussions about $70 million in ARPA, because Vice Speaker earlier was bringing it up like, hey, there's about $70 million that needs to go to current projects, right? Because it doesn't look like we're going to be able to use this money in time before we have to return it.
Yeah.
So $20 million is going to DPW for road repairs. GMH is going to use some of that money, right? And so there still will be some money appropriated for the project, the infrastructure project behind or on back road, but we just don't have enough time. And so when you look at, well, what are the prerequisites? Again, shovel-ready
projects that have been pushed back pretty much
since 2024. That's
and
already
I believe
on.
the cemetery is one of them.
That could be it.
Yeah,
that
and
could
I think,
be it.
And if that's the case, then Senator Tony, Vice Speaker Tony, does have a good point. That look, there is a time frame here that we need to use the money. And I see why he brought up the 70 million, because if that's the case, then let's go back, because this whole thing about, fixing, the crypts down there and everything, this goes way beyond. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's documented.
Yeah.
Right? And if we can prove that this was a project that
before
has been long-standing, before 2024, put plenty millions into the expansion of the Veterans Cemetery.
Yeah, jeez, man.
Let's do this before we get to the break.
Yeah.
Senator Sean Gumatauta asks the director, St. Augustine, if GOVA can handle these projects without DPW.
Okay, Sean is, 3 minutes? We do have a phone call about the issue of this Veteran Cemetery. Do you want to go?
So we could do one. We can either bypass Gumatauta and go to Dueñas and take the phone call.
Okay.
Or do we won't? We don't have time for both.
That's really up to you.
We'll do the phone call.
We'll do the phone call.
We'll do the phone call. Sorry, Senator Gumatauta.
Sorry, Sean. All right.
Off a day, Wave 105. You're on the air.
Yes, half a day.
Off a day, Mr.
This is Steve.
Off a day. So yeah, we were kind of just going, doing the recap. You were there too, right? So is there anything?
Yes. Before I say anything, I just want to say condolences to the family of Steve Ignacio. I had a great honor to serve under him as his staff assistant, and he's a great chief. He has done a lot for the Guam Police Department. And the thing, I sent you guys my written testimony.
Sorry,
That's about 8 pages.
Real quick, though,
There's
can we just turn the camera on,
error,
Ryan?
Grammatical error in that. But what I did is I identified the two special funds already in the Guam Veteran Cemetery or in 10 GCA, Chapter 67, right? That concerned about GOVA. There's the Veteran Cemetery Fund supposed to be conducting the money that's going there, supposed to be for maintenance of the cemetery. And my issue to this is they keep talking about expansion and renovation. There's a National Cemetery Administration that provides the grant, and they can either the government of Guam can do the renovation now and ask for request for reimbursement.
What
or
about
they can
when you
apply for
say
grant.
that companies?
But,
what about where you say companies can help support repairs too? I know that was part of your testimony as well, right?
Yes, if you look at
Private donations.
there's a section, I believe, in Title V.
Yeah.
The company can actually donate. What the donation process, I can send you probably a copy of that because I encountered this donation letter during COVID-19. The company can write a letter to the governor quoting the title, right, that they're donating a certain amount, of certain services to a certain agency, and then directing the director of the agency
because I know you asked
provide the services that they wanted to donate to the company
do we know if,
or to the agency.
Do we know any companies that have made donations already? Because I know that's something that you were asking, right? Did you ever get a response?
You know, because it's in the title, it's in the law, and if that thing goes to the governor's office, their legal officer will review it. If it's okay, then it is being approved and sent down to the agency, and the agency will whatever that needs to be done, whatever they're donating, equipment, patrol cars or whatever, it goes down to the agency, but it has to go to the governor's office, reviewed by the legal office, and after that it comes down to the agency that they wanted to donate the equipment or whatever they have to donate.
Even
in accordance
property,
with the law.
right? You're saying that even property can be donated.
Yes, I mean, you can answer that. That, but you know, it's true. There's no funding in that, and I identify why creating too much additional funding, right? Because we're known to create special funds. The special funds, the money sits in the bank, right? If you give a good prime example is when I saw one fire department one time requesting to use the funds that was supposed to be for them. I think the 911 or the flame fund that they have, requesting the senators to use that. So why are they creating a fund that the agency can even get into whenever they need it? The only fund that's being included right now in the budget I can see of, the Guam Police Department, the Police Services Fund, and then the one for the renewal of the vehicles, it goes into their budget automatically. They didn't have to request for it. So my suggestion in the budget, right, I concluded in that that I will support any type of legislation as long as it's identified funding. If you just play that
we didn't get to Senator Chris Duenas yet, and I definitely want to play his, but he says, well, the general fund is where you're going to get the funding.
Yeah, but it's not identified. Even the problem, right, because they did not reach out to the agency, find out exactly what they want, right? Collaborate with them before they introduce a bill. If you look at after the bill, Bill 329, the same thing. There's no funding was identified. Agency that was involved was not reached out to collaborate as far as what needs to be done. You know, one of the things working together with the other agencies. If you want to help, reach out to them and say, "Hey, we're planning to do this. What are your suggestions?" Right? Not blindsiding their fellows public servants because they're all public servants. I know I close out my testimony that if there's no identified funding, it's going to be an unfunded mandate. It's going to turn out to be an empty promise, like what they did with the Guam Public Safety Construction Act of 2005 and the Title V, Chapter 59. Up to now, the Guam Police Headquarters has not been built. That's what I call unfunded mandate, and that's what I call empty promises. And I brought up about the $35 million. I've been asking about the $35 million under the fiscal year 2022, where they allocate $35 million for the healthcare center, which is the Guam 21st Healthcare Center of Excellence under Title 12, Chapter 83. It said it's supposed to be for, the law says the $30 million were supposed to be a leaseback payment for 30 years, for 40 years. It can be extended after that. But that $35 million was allotted, and there's no contract on any hospital in accordance, or any project in accordance to the law. The same thing with Simon Sanchez. $16 million is set aside, and they said that they're going to set aside the money. But the contract for Simon Sanchez, you know, I feel bad for the students. This is since 2013.
Yeah.
They're going to set aside the money, but
Well, when we're
the whole
specifically
contract, the whole
talking about,
contract it's been in a protest. We don't even know how much it's going to cost for the lease back payment. It's just going to sit in the bank. So I suggested to them, why don't we use that money? Give Gova the $10 million.
Senator
as a
Chris
form of a
Duenas already
capital
said they're not going to
project.
touch. He said that they're not going to touch that $16 million, right?
Yeah, because
that's
so
a
if you
non-starter.
read back into the statement of Vice Speaker Ada that they will find funding for $1 million. So it tells me as a Filipino that there's no money on that bill. They're still looking for one.
Well, it says, yeah, I agree with you on that, right? It says the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs shall include in its annual budget an appropriation request of not less than $1 million.
Okay,
well,
if you're on top of that, right, the creation of the fund,
where does an
did it
annual
say-
budget come from? It comes
did it
from
say
the
in-
general fund.
did it say in that section how the money is going to be deposited? How's the new fund, the new special fund is going to be gaining money or going to be receiving money? Nothing in that bill. Even that bill didn't say what's going to be. This bill is going to be effective.
When it passes, right? When the
It
bill passes.
didn't state that.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't say when this comes.
They can pass that, but there's no projected time. It can be 20 years from now.
It is a strange mechanism because I haven't seen it done like this. But basically, they are mandating the director because it says shall request, right? And so every year the director has to go in front of the legislature and add this request into its budget, right? Now, the legislature, it even says they do not need to fund it, right? It just says the appropriation request shall continue for not less than 10 years. So they're mandating every director to request for this money to go for the towards the construction.
If they cannot provide that somebody else would justify why they cannot provide it. Why can't the senators explain to them during the budget process?
Yeah, OFB has to provide reasons why, explaining the reasons why it can't be funded, and then after that, there is no mechanism in place to give Gova the money. That part I definitely agree. It is very strange.
I'm glad that the $35 million has been my questions to all the senators. I didn't know that. I messaged them. And yesterday said, you know what the $35 million is? The $40 million is supposed to go to, there was a bill for GMH. You know, when they write the budget law or the budget bill, they're part of the appropriation process. They should know exactly. They should read back on the law. Why are we allotting $35 million for a project that has not been even realized? There's no contract for a lease back payment. The same thing with Simon Sanchez. Why are we setting aside $60 million for a project that has not even been finalized? No contractor doesn't say how much is going to be the lease back payment. So are we setting aside the money?
Well, because when they set aside the money, there was no protest. Now there is. I got to run though, Steve.
Okay, but
All right.
The last thing that I asked them, they have a lot of investments, a lot of special funds. Put in the budget, identify the investment and how much gain that we're getting from those investments.
Yeah.
To let the public know.
I highly encourage everybody to rewatch it in its entirety. All right, take care, Steve. 5:01 in the afternoon, we are going to take the break. KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The U.S. Air Force says 8 people aboard a B-52 bomber that crashed shortly after takeoff at Edwards Air Force Base north of Los Angeles are dead. The long-range bomber was said to be on a routine test mission, the cause not immediately clear. President Trump's attending a G7 summit in France after striking an agreement with Iran.
It's signed, the deal's all signed, and the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found, but it's essentially ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened.
Pakistan says there will be a signing of an agreement Friday. The president says Iran's leadership played a role in the agreement.
As you know, the first set is gone, the second set is gone, and we found the third set to be very smart, strong, very smart, but We ended up making a deal.
The president hopes this will be a good new relationship with Iran.
And if we don't, we go back to where we started, but I don't think that's going to be necessary.
Among the challenges ahead is whether Israel will continue its offensive in Lebanon. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Stock markets rallied worldwide and oil prices eased on word of the deal. In other news, California Governor Gavin Newsom says the Justice Department is investigating him and his wife. The Democrats accusing the Trump administration of targeting him for political purposes as he weighs a presidential bid.
Not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents.
Fox is buying the streaming platform Roku in a deal valued around $22 billion. And at the World Cup, Cape Verde stunned Spain, battling to a scoreless draw. Spain's one of the favorites to win the tournament. Cape Verde's making its World Cup debut. This is AP News. World Cup fever has been on display even at one of baseball's most storied ballparks.
One day after Scotland's first World Cup win in 36 years, 1-0 over Haiti at nearby Boston Stadium, Scottish fans continued the party at historic Fenway Park, home of MLB's Boston Red Sox. Former Red Sox World Series hero and visiting Texas Rangers pitcher Nathan Eovaldi tells the AP.
It reminded me of the 21 postseason game. It's just like a super electric crowd.
It was the first baseball game for two young Scotland fans who sat next to the Rangers dugout. Texas skipper Skip Schumacher.
I think we have new baseball fans because of it.
Before the game, the kilt-wearing and bagpipe-playing Tartan Army paraded in the streets from a nearby public park to the ballpark.
Hearing whatever it was, 4,000 or 5,000 fans in center field and that wave and the whole deal was pretty special to take it all in and witness.
Gethin Coolbaugh, Boston.
And more stories at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM FM, Dedido. Powered by Glimpses Media.
Young or old, black or white, or anything in between. From employees to entrepreneurs, doctors to detectives, some things define us and set us apart, but there's one thing that binds us. Before anything, we are one thing. Born to be Americans, proud to be Americans. Our United States are our united fates. Know your Constitution.
Unity. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
5:05 in the afternoon, and right about now it's time to check in the roads of Guam, helping you move forward. Along with Guam Auto Spot, we have Mr. Pauly Suba. Buenas.
All right, let's see how we can help you move forward with Guam Auto Spot. Yeah, so there are delays trying to get out of Tumon over by, I believe that's called Santos Hill, right?
Yeah.
Over by Weston and Tarza, trying to get out of there. Expect delays there. Mild congestion in the Harmon area, or Harmon/Dedido area between the Micronesia Mall and also Guam Regional Medical City. Coming out of Route 3, not too bad. Whatever that situation was on Route 1 in the Tamuning area heading southbound from Village of Donkey to ITC has cleared up. Because I don't see... Was there like a... What do you call it? Like a wave or something? I don't know. Because like some kind of... I don't know. It's not an issue anymore, that's for sure. So whatever it was, it definitely did clear up. Once again, helping you move forward on this Tuesday afternoon, that's Guam Auto Spot. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
Guam is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SAME Guam Post invites you to the 2026 Industry Forum happening July 28 through 30 at the Dusit Tani Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as they come together to discuss Guam's future in infrastructure, resilience, and regional growth. This premier event connects you to Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit GuamIndustryForum.com. The 2026 SAME Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing
Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at triplejguam.com.
Got friends who still haven't switched to GTA? Now's the time to give them a nudge, because you can get up to $150 just for sending them our way. Refer a friend who signs up for a single service like wireless or internet, and you'll score $100. And if they go for a choice bundle, that's a cool $150 in your pocket. It's simple, it's sweet, and it pays to share. Visit GTA.net to start referring today. GTA, we start with you. Terms and conditions apply. Visit GTA.net for more information.
All summer long, Chili's Party Platters make celebrating easy and delicious. Perfect for grad parties, family gatherings, or anytime you're feeding a crowd. Available for pickup or for delivery. Only at Chili's. Great value and memories happen here.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Toriz Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
And now everybody, featuring Theo Guccinas on guitar, from Chicago's debut album in 1969.
In the afternoon, welcome back to the show. This is the BrightSide right here on Wave 105. Sending it back to Pauly Suba.
We do want to thank our sponsors, MicroPack. Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at MicroPack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J, get a free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you, as well as Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. 5:10 in the afternoon, it's time for good news for a change, and that is brought to you by Provisions Wine and Cheese. They serve fresh salads, delicious sandwiches, and authentic Roman-style pizza. And today's good news comes from the FIFA World Cup, showcasing a 40-year-old goalkeeper, Vazinha Savez, who had 7 saves against Spain. And so Spain is widely considered one of the favorites to win the World Cup. And this 40-year-old captain from Cape Verde, which I think like 150,000 people live there, maybe a little bit more. I don't have it right in front of me. They're a small country, though, right? Mm-hmm. They held Spain to a 0-0 draw. And how many shots on goal? 7 saves by this goalie. And so every time he would, 1, 2 saves, the crowd's going nuts. By the 5th save, they're like, "Who is this guy?" And not only did everybody that was watching going nuts, people on social media. This guy has garnered a couple million followers by the end of this game. So again, he is a 40-year-old captain that produced 7 saves as Cape Verde's as they challenged Spain to a 0-0 draw, turning a Group H match into a career-defining night for a player who had waited more than a decade for this stage. The result was historic for Cape Verde and deeply frustrating for Spain, who controlled long spells but could not find a way through. And so for Vozinha, born Josemar Jose Alvarez Diaz in Mindelo. It was a performance that changes how a footballer is remembered. By the end of the night, he was no longer just a respected national team veteran. He had become one of the tournament's most talked about figures, and he has gained millions of followers within just the first game. And so people are going to be following this guy's journey throughout the World Cup.
He has million-plus fans.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Good news for a change, once again, brought to you by our friends at Provisions. They're open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Call Provisions at 671-633-9463. Place your order today. Visit their website at provisionsguam.com.
I think I got to go down there and just try their pizza.
Yes.
I tried their tuna melt, which was really, really good.
All of their sandwiches, you can't go wrong.
But I did take a picture of their pizza. They were
Yeah.
gracious enough to show me what it looks like, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to come back and get that one.
Nice. And so I know we're trying to reach out to Senator Sean Gumatauta,
Actually,
right?
we got him
He's
online
on?
right
Okay,
now. Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Hafaday, Senator, I appreciate the opportunity to get more details, especially now that we're about 24 hours from that hearing, right?
Hello, Pauly.
Hafaday, Senator, you're on the air. Thanks for having this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck is going on over there?
No worries. So, yeah, talk.
Why don't we talk about the World Cup? I mean, why are
Yeah.
we going to go back to politics right now? The World Cup is going well.
Whatever you want to do, Senator, while I got you on the air.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Hey, good afternoon, Pauly, and good afternoon to all your listeners.
Yeah, so I mean, it is a hot topic, right? Obviously, when it comes to veterans issues, veteran cemetery, and getting them the resources that they need. So this
Sure.
is Vice Speaker Tony Atta was looking at this. This is how we can do this. However, the veterans did, when they saw this bill and they came and testified, they're saying, it's half-cocked. And so Senator Chris Dueñas says, no, this isn't half-cocked. This is a bazooka. So if you can kind of share now that we've gone about 24 hours since that hearing, are you saying that we totally can provide the $1 million? If we can, then why don't we just give them the $1 million in this budget and not go through this whole process of 10 years? Because the worry is you can't necessarily, or maybe correct me if I'm wrong, bind the hands of future legislatures to give them, to appropriate money.
I mean, as I looked at the bill, and I tend to agree with our finance chair. This is setting aside money, and just in case that I think most of us in the legislature want to, invest in our only state cemetery, if you want to call it anything. I know there's really, outside of just what we fund out for the office itself, this was an actual fund to go directly to its operations, and which I think is something that is a good thing. There is a lot of federal monies that are put into it, but it's our way of doing it. I mean, it's not the first time we've done this, Pauly. If you recall, even I'll use a good example is my own policy to help create the Killed in the Line of Duty benefit, right? So when we did that for public safety officers, we were trying to make a local fund source to complement would be a federal program. So this is not too far off. We want to use $1 million for the next a $10 million investment, $1 million a year, on top of what the effort would be by the current and future Guam Office of Veterans Affairs to put more resources into the Guam Veterans Cemetery. So it's a good thing. It's not. I don't think of it as bad. I appreciated the input yesterday. It was a little heated, but
yes.
But I would say I think everyone would agree. Everyone in our branch of government wants to support. So I think it was a good hearing. That's what the hearings are for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at the end of the day, when Senator Chris Dueñas asked straightforward the director, would you, if this money's available to you, wouldn't you want it? Would you ask for it? And he says yes. And then Vice Speaker Tony Atta had shared he sees a pattern here. are you telling us that you don't want this money? And so he was a little taken aback by some of the statements. And so where are we now, though? Are we going to move forward? Are we setting this aside? Are we going to speak with the veterans community more on this?
If you're asking me that question, I think that's what I think you alluded to it earlier to the markup process of the bill. So, I mean, this is in Senator Bree's committee, which I am a member. And if we're going to mark up this bill at some point or look at it, I absolutely want to support it. When it comes to, I think there was a question of it doesn't say when it's going to be enacted. Well, if you read it, it's saying it's trying to put it into the budget. So in the case of any this and future, directors of the office, it'll be in their respective fiscal year budget. So it's a good thing. I mean, if anyone is against $1 million into it,
right.
Is there funding available? The question, yes, according to the finance chair, that they are going to move money around to be able to make this work. So
I think
I'm
they're
excited.
worried.
I think it's a good thing.
I think the veterans are worried that, okay, there's $1 million available now, but will there be another $1 million in fiscal year 28, 29, 30 for 10 years? And I think that
would be the policy, right? So and that's what this does. Is saying every year we'll put this aside. That's a good thing. And I mean, I think there's a lot more time spent on people. I mean, personnel is the biggest part of it, but we don't put enough into different, different resources of the respective agencies. In this case, the Guam Veterans Cemetery is a major asset that is under the Office of Veterans Affairs.
Sean,
why not put it in there?
Here's my question, because I've seen it time and time again. I mean, it's almost like this is a rainy day fund for the Veterans Cemetery. But we've seen in the past where rainy day funds have been raided pretty much for stuff that, I mean, that's, I guess that's the point that the veterans were trying to make. And then Pauly kind of alluded to it too as well, that no legislature is beholden from the previous legislature. So if the next legislature says, "Yay, they said it, we didn't," what then?
I mean, for as long as I'm a policymaker, I would always try to encourage us to fund out this particular this effort. I think it's a a good thing. I mean, if it goes back to, I mean, remember, the operations of the cemetery is going to need lifts. Right. It's going to need equipment. Where does it come from now? And that's the point. We spend, just like on the public safety side, we're always looking at federal grants. We're not going to grant our way to ensuring that the resources are there. We need to invest a little bit into our local agencies, and this is one way to do it.
Vice Speaker Tony was basically bringing up the ARP $70 million. Do you know of any projects currently that are shovel-ready with the
cemetery?
With the cemetery? Because
I don't think so. And I think, and if there is, I just haven't seen it. But that goes back to what we were trying to get from the director yesterday was listen, okay, if you're going to move ahead with any of these grants, could we park it under Public Works? Do you need the help? Do we get the help of, let's say, Parks and Rec? They run TGWAC. Are we, what kind of resources do you need? That's what we're trying to get to is, hey, listen, you need help. How can we do that? That's where I think where our questions were going yesterday.
So,
at least my questions were.
And so I look at this section 67114C as this is kind of a safeguard in the event the legislature opts to not fund or diminishes the appropriation requested in paragraph B of the section. The Office of Finance and Budget shall publish a statement on its website explaining the reasons for its actions. And so I see it as a safeguard, but then I also see the veterans, that's why they're so concerned. They're like, man, this is a loophole of why it won't get funded in the future.
No, what it's trying to say that if you do not fund it, then there's got to be a reason for why it's not being funded. And that's all it's saying.
And my reason would be we have no money.
That could be one. They could say, we use another funding source for this. to fund the expansion, to fund any renovations. It could be any host of things. But right now, like, we don't have anything for the actual grounds and the cemetery. So, can we start somewhere? I mean, that's what I think that this is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I understand where some of the veterans were at yesterday, but that's just a couple of voices. But I'll share with you that ones I talked with are mostly everyone's like, yeah, if you guys are going to put money into the cemetery, that makes a little bit of sense. But remember, we still have the commission. I'm hoping that they'll engage too and say, especially in the markup, hey, where do you guys want to see this? How do you think it's $1 million? Is it $250,000? Is it a baby step? Remember, we have a markup process, guys. It's not $1 million. Okay, what about, is it doable at $250,000? Or are we looking at other resources? Is it more?
Well, clearly,
whatever the case might be.
St. Augustine says he needs 600 now, thousand.
Okay, well, I mean, but if he needed 600,000, that was the first time we've heard that. Considering that the guys had I don't know how many opportunities to come to us, and that was a surprise, I believe, to Senator Bree, because I think you can't talk about grants and all these things and the work. It's in the actual, what do you call that, in the fiscal note, that they're aware of these two major grants that are funding the cemetery. So that's money already. That's already there. And if it's not there, then I'm kind of confused where the director was going with it, because BBMR acknowledged there was two grants that are currently being used to help support the operations or the expansion of the Veterans Cemetery in PD.
That's what Senator Tello was asking about, right? How much is in these two? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was. I mean, I think I was asking too. I'm aware of several $1 million. Are you saying we're not going to use that money? Because it's already committed by BBMR. They've kind of sounded like they booked that money already, at least according to the fiscal note.
I appreciate the clarity, Senator. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Since I got you, what about the earlier oversight that you oversaw with the Office of Homeland
it's like
Security?
we're bookending the week, Pauly. So we had this news from FEMA.
Yeah. Are you satisfied with their responses? I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be asked. I know Lucy Perez says that she's going to get more information to Speaker Frank.
Yep. I mean, the committee is waiting for that.
Okay.
It's going to be a list of just how much money is at stake here. They said, we've been on drawdown status since, or restricted drawdown status since 2023. Is that the first time you've heard that? Because I can tell you for darn sure that's the first time I heard that. And so for all of us that are on the committee, we've been this news is unsettling because of the fact that if you're tracking the way that FEMA is doing things nowadays, they're trying to basically pull away from certain activities and move it back to the states, and they're going to look at other ways to fund some of these programs, or they may in fact go away. So that for us, it's like, okay. If we're going to go down this road, okay, are you complying? That's all we're trying to get from them. Because it's one thing to comply, but you just got to do it. And I think it was Senator Duenas who made one of the biggest points. Can you guys get an ASO, an Administrative Services Office, to assist? That was probably the most important of that. If you're going to ask for $1.5 million from the general fund, which they right now can't justify where the millions. And how did they get the authority to spend anything beyond? Because remember, it's always been federally funded. That was my question. Where did you get that authority from? Or are we waiting for the governor to write back and saying, "Dear legislature, we spent X amount for Homeland Security and civil defense," and that it's a reporting issue. That's, I think, is key. And can they justify where they spent that? But for us, I'm with you. I think the community was watching that. And just so you know, Pauly, I sent a FOIA for that, and then they asked for an extension, and then since the extension was given and they gave it to my office, we're waiting for them to disclose. Oh, by the way, the community were on restricted drawdown status. They didn't do that, and so that's okay. I mean, we found out yesterday that they what they're doing, so that's fine and dandy. But again, it's going to tee up for what will happen at the end of the week.
Sure.
When we talk about the $25 million, how did you spend the money we gave you for the Senlaku response?
Mm-hmm.
I think Lester gave us a little bit of a primer during the SCS meeting last week, which I appreciated because I think he was going to be off island.
$10 million will probably come back, and he suggests you put it in the rainy day fund, back in the rainy day. Right.
Right. So that's fine. But then, what about the other $15 million? How was all that spent? Were there any challenges?
Right.
What did you do? And I've talked to a bunch of different mayors, and some of them they spent that $250. That was definitely spent. Right. There's a couple that are leaving some on the table, which I thought was unfortunate. Because, again, if there is going to be any reimbursements, and just so you know, there is no indication from the Federal Emergency Management Agency that President Trump will be declaring a major disaster area for Guam, just like the CNMI. That we don't expect that to happen anytime soon, and we would have heard that a while ago, and that hasn't happened. I know they're hopeful, but I mean, if you understand the way the Stafford Act works, you would see stuff within 30 days, but we've all been waiting. Yeah, we know that it is a big price tag, over $400 million damage.
So where did the governor get the $400 million price tag on that?
That's a question for the executive branch, Ryan. I think that's an important question because for us, I'm curious because if you think about where $25 million is, if it's a 75-25 match, you're thinking, okay, well, $100 million in damage. But if we're returning money to the rainy day fund, that means how did we cover some of the repairs or the damage that was sustained by Senlaku?
Well, I also just want to caution our government too to not, inflate some of the damages, right? I mean, it must be directed toward. It must be damage that was a result from a typhoon. Because I was a little concerned about some of the statements that were made on the record with DPR when they were talking about Epau Beach, and they're saying, well, we prettied up Epau Beach too well, and so they looked at the place and they're like, oh, there's no real damages. But I mean, what are you saying is damaged there? Are you saying the benches and the tables are damaged? Because I don't know. I think those tables and benches were damaged a long time ago just from corrosion, just from...
I agree with you, Pauly. I mean, like for me, every day I come to my office here in Agana, and the entire shoreline here in Agana or Nigua is completely still covered in sand. I mean, there was sand up until the middle of... near my office, it was almost beachfront. And so, are they repairing the roadway? Is this damage to? We haven't even talked about the impact to the business community, right? I think it's like a $25 million in loss. I think that was I might be low. It might be lower. Higher than that. But you talk to any of the businesses who are in this area, they were completely impacted. The closures for a couple days, those were also considered losses. So there's a lot to be, and we're having to get from them on Friday, and I'm hoping that you guys will be monitoring that in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Friday.
All right, I appreciate this, Senator. Thank you for the time.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, keep up the good work, man. I listen to you guys every day, and I know that probably drive Ryan crazy if I'm WhatsApping him. So I love that paying attention. So thanks, guys, for all that you guys do. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Let's just take this break. I know we have Chris on the line, and I want to give him the opportunity to share his perspective, right? And I don't want to rush him into it because we are up against this break.
Yes. All right. So let's,
Chris, please stand by.
Let's do traffic, go to the break, and then come to our caller, Mr. Chris. All right.
Here we go. Yes. All the main arteries throughout our roads here in Guam are heavily congested, right? I'm looking at heavy congestion on Route 8, trying to get down from Airport Road onto 1. Is heavily congested. Route 8 all the way to the Tri-intersection. Major delays there. They go as far back as, what is this? The Cañada.
Really?
So from Cañada all the way to the Tri-intersection.
Wow.
Major delays. Obviously, you only have a few traffic lights that are going to kind of hold you up. So it's still better than Route 1 because Route 1 is major delays from Hagåtña. There are a few gaps here and there, but you are going to see things slow you down all the way into the Upper Tumon area. And then Route 16, some delays there by Fatima Road, trying to get back onto Route 1. And then, of course, Marine Corps Drive is delayed in the Upper Tumon and Dededo area, right by what is this? I'm sorry. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. It's not it is Iseng Song.
Okay.
Right there. Yeah, I was like, brain fart.
Brain fart.
Yeah. Iseng Song Road and Route 1, that intersection right there. Once you pass it, you're nice and clear sailing all the way into Jigo. Once again, helping you move forward on this Tuesday afternoon is Guam Auto Spot. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. Public libraries, fire departments, the post office, lightning rods that save lives, the Declaration of Independence. They all have one person in common, Benjamin Franklin, one of our nation's most important founders.
Ben Franklin, he was the world's most famous scientist in his day. He's not remembered here as that. He's remembered as a founding father.
As U.S. ambassador to France, he convinced their powerful monarchy to back a risky rebellion that helped the 13 colonies win the battle against Britain to create the United States. His experiments with a kite proved that lightning was electricity. He helped write the Declaration of Independence and was a leading voice at the Constitutional Convention.
People are meeting him and they're going, it's like talking to a 20-year-old. His mind is so open.
He was a master of science, politics, diplomacy, and culture. And America would look very different if it weren't for the man born in poverty who rose to become one of the most influential figures of the 18th century.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
Attention all 2026 graduates! Looking for the perfect spot to celebrate your big achievement? Chili's is the best place to be. Just show proof of graduation and enjoy a complimentary meal on us. Now through June 30th. It's our way of saying congrats. Some restrictions apply. Visit chilisguam.com/special promos for more details. Only at Chili's. Great food and memories happen here.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mary Okada. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Don't remember what day it was. And
5:35 in the afternoon. Welcome back to the show. It's the Bright Side right here on Wave 105. 671-922-1051 or 2 is the phone line number. Give us a call. Be a part of the discussion. Sending it back to Mr. Pauly Suba. Buenas.
All right, welcome back. Do we still have Chris on the line?
I believe so. Yeah.
All right. Hop Day, Wave 105, you're on the air.
Hey, Pauly, good afternoon, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well, no complaints. And so, this is Chris from Chris Flores, right? Hop Day.
Yes, this is Chris Flores. I'm a retired United States Army captain, military police. And, Pauly, I know we don't have too much time on the air left because you get off the air at 6, correct?
You're good. Go ahead.
Let's just get to the chase right now and put this issue to bed.
Okay.
The bottom line, Pauly, here's the bottom line. I'm a member of the American Legion as well, and Senator Tom Atta, former Senator Tom Atta, he's also a member of that organization. I had put on the chat Monday morning reminding the veterans in the American Legion group, hey, let's get down to the legislature at 2 p.m. and give testimony that this bill is dead in the water without identifying a funding source. Well, former Senator Tom Atta chimed in on the chat group and mentioned, although the bill mentions a lot of shortcomings with the cemetery, it does not address a funding source for the $1 million for 10 years. Okay, that's the bottom line. And without the funding source, the bill is basically an empty promise. That's by former Senator Tom Atta, and I can share that message with you to you if I get your phone number on the side after we hang up, and I'll forward that message to you. So the bottom line is this bill 321. That's it. It's just a bill that has an empty promise for the veterans. Now, we can talk about the sideshow that happened later, I call it the circus, because especially Senator Chris Duenas, he's never been in the military. He probably doesn't know what a bazooka looks like, even if I was to show him one. He's still stuck in watching World War II movies, maybe, and the Korean War, where the bazookas were used. But we don't have bazookas anymore. We have the light anti-tank weapon. It's the law now. That's the new weapon that replaced the bazooka. But just to let you know, Chris Duenas, sometimes he doesn't know what he's talking about. And to give you an example of the $1 million that they're going to try and find every year, which he may not be there next year, or Shanga Matato, any of those guys. But tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow's not promised that they're going to be there for the next 10 years. But here's an analogy that I'll give you. So I'm in the military, and just so that the listeners will understand clearly, you're going to tell me, Chris, I want you to go sustain this firefight. Right now you have 1 million bullets, because that's what the budget basically is for GOVA right now. It's a little over 1 million. Okay. Here's 1 million bullets. I want you to sustain this fight. Oh, by the way, I'm going to give you another 1 million bullets for the next 10 years if you're able to sustain this fight. So now I'm getting down to my last bullet, and I say, okay, I need the 1 million bullets. Well, let me find it for you. Let me try and locate it for you. Let me see where I can get it. Let me see if the Marines have it. Let me see if the Air Force has it. It's hogwash. It's a Make-A-Wish Foundation bill. That's what I call that bill.
What about, I mean, Senator Shanga Matato was just on, and he says, well, it's when you go in front of the legislature, it's part of the budget appropriation. That's where they'll request for the $1 million. GOVA will request the $1 million every year for 10 years through the budget appropriations. Is that
okay? So here's the problem with that proposal. And again, it's a proposal.
Right.
It's not in stone. Okay, so
according to the bill, they have to prove that they don't have the money or reasons why they're not going to appropriate the $1 million, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much for cutting to the chase. So here's the bottom line. Okay, I'm talking a lot, and my throat's getting dry, and let me get a cup of water here.
Okay, no worries.
Real quick.
I just want to give you the opportunity to finish your thoughts, because I do got to move on. But go for it, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So the bottom line is, he's going to come to the legislature and ask for the monies every year. Okay, and it's not guaranteed that it's going to be there. Okay, but they're gonna have to come up with a reason why they don't have the money. So here's the bottom line. This Republican majority have reduced the BPT from 5 to 4.5. Now it's going to go to 4%. They've reduced a lot of the coffers for the GovGuam pocketbook. Okay, so I already know there's going to be a shortfall somewhere, because once Trump enacts his cuts for the next fiscal year, it's going to affect Guam. Okay, and that's why Governor Liu Guerrero raised the BPT from 4 to 5 to cover the shortcoming. And we're still not out of the woods with this president. You never know what Trump is going to do. So that was my concern with them saying, well, we won't, don't worry, we'll find $1 million. Or the excuse now is, okay, we have to have a reason why we cannot give you the $1 million. And again, to me, that's just make a wish list. And, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is solid. And for us, veterans, we don't operate like that. We don't operate like that. You got to be straightforward. You got to have the resources. You got to have the staffing pattern. And that's the bottom line.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauly.
Okay,
Have a great evening.
You too.
Take care.
All
God
right.
bless.
So I think Senator Chris Duenas heard those statements, right? So we have him on the line. Off a day, Senator.
Off a day, Pauly. How you doing?
Doing well. Just, continue to live the dream, friend.
You know it. Right on, Pauly. So, I was listening to Sean, and I listened to what I could catch of Chris Flores calling in. But, Sean covered it really well. I can understand, some of the misunderstandings of the approach here.
Mm-hmm.
But I want just go back to the bill once again that we're talking about, this bill for the Veterans, Administration basically coming in and saying every year it's a shall provision to put in $1 million for an appropriation, and OSB has to handle that under the shall provision for maintenance, upkeep, and other things for the Veteran Cemetery, for the Veteran Associations. And, to me, that's very durable. Now, the only time any bill, this is the first reading process, the only time any bill is dead is when it gets either put in the inactive file or fails on the floor. Other than that, bills can be amended, bills can be made better. Now, the anticipation, of course, when we talk about the appropriation process, which the appropriation is listed in the bill, is the general fund. We don't appropriate federal funds. We receive federal funds. We recognize them in the budget because they are funds that are available for expenditure. But the main fund and the only fund, even special funds, they can be appropriated for different purposes, or they require an annual appropriation. But those special funds are already collected from whatever funding source that they have, so they're appropriated for a certain purpose. So the reality is that it's a general knowledge that the appropriation from the legislature is the general fund. Now, if we need to be more explicit, of course, we mark up the bill and we write in more explicit the general fund. But it's kind of understood in budgeting that that's going to be the general fund, unless there is a special fund, which we know that this is the creation of a funding source through appropriation. Now, the discussion that you made a great reference to on Office and Finance and Budget, indicating that for this fiscal year, there won't be an appropriation, or the reason why. This year, it could have been the fact that, unfortunately, the Veterans, Affairs, the Veterans Organization, under the governor's office, is going to be sending back $3.1 million because they failed to expend that fund. Now, that would have been a reason why we wouldn't have appropriated in the next fiscal year, because they had $3.1 million in federal funding that, they're sending back. The other one is, of course, the grant. This is the second year now that's been represented that they're going to get the grant for the upgrades of the cemetery. And the director said basically he doesn't believe they're going to get that $8+ million. They won't qualify for it because they're not going to meet the deadline once again. Now, originally they said it was the Attorney General's fault, but the Attorney General sent in his message saying, no, it's not our fault.
Okay.
The corrections in the review that we've had are still with Public Works and haven't been sent back to us for finalization and signature of the contract. So this is really what's going on, and this is why the legislature jumped in and said, look, let's see what we can do. Because even right now, for the director to say he needs $600,000, he has $600,000 in lapses right now. The governor's office could reprogram that money if they really wanted him to have that, other than for personnel, because for some reason there's a logjam at DOA and they can't hire, and that's throughout the entire government. So that's what's going on as far as from our perspective, and we're just trying to help. But I'll tell you what, if they want to say, don't continue this process and don't try to put an appropriation for $1 million, we can just, put the bill in the inactive file and try it maybe next term.
That's what Vice Speaker Tony Atta was hesitant to say, but he says, I see a pattern here. I see, is that what we really want? I mean, Senator Sean Gumatauto said there are other veterans that are saying, no, they do want this. And so Do we have that at least on written that can be added to your markup session?
Absolutely. I mean, that will be the process of the committee.
Yeah.
You know, and the committee chair, I tell you, Senator Sabrina Salas-Montanani, she turns over committee reports fast.
Okay.
All of the committees have been very efficient. This legislature's signature really is the markup process. Very transparent. We invite the entire committee. That's why most of the bills that hit the floor, they're really pretty much ready for prime time, because a lot of this stuff's been done in the committee with the committee report, you know, and it's all loaded up online prior to us, you know, debating it on the floor. But yeah, the thing is, what we were taken back to most of is it was really an adversarial exchange. You know what I mean? We didn't understand where that was coming from. I mean, yeah, you can express some doubt, you can express some concern. You know, I guarantee if I have a one-on-one conversation with a mentor of mine, Senator Tom Atta, he would say, yeah, as it's written right now, it's kind of vague. But if they make maybe some language tweaking and saying, you know, the general fund and being more explicit, that's fine. But I can tell you if that mandate passes into law, you know, they have to put that appropriation in on an annual basis. And if it's not appropriated, the Office of Finance Budget has to explain why.
You have to show
Now,
cause.
you're right. There might be a situation whereby, hey, you know, it's austere times. The government doesn't have the money. That would be across the board, right? That wouldn't be just them. But other than that, if the funding is available and the budget can carry it, they have to have a good reason for not putting it in. But we'll continue in the markup process. Sure. But we were really surprised at the amount of kind of an adversarial positions that were taken, and I personally didn't understand it.
Well, Chris Flores also brought up, the writing is on the wall, lowering the BPT and whatnot, and so he's concerned that you won't when you lower the BPT. I mean, you made the statement yesterday, right, that currently running about $10 million above adopted projections, and revenue performance is stronger than expected. And so can you just share with our audience while I have you now? Because also I was concerned that there were two budgets being prepared, one on a 4.5 and one on a 4. OFB is working on a 4, and BBMR is still holding on to, I don't know what, a prayer that will still have a budget for 4.5. And
yeah, so the governor's budget is at a 4.5 rate, but so we are working on a 4.
Yeah,
we are going to adjust the governor's budget, but we're not going to adjust the governor's budget just because of the BPT, because it's performing. We're adjusting the governor's budget because I'm telling you right now, we cannot continue to grow the government's expenditures. We have to get things under control, especially, and the reason why we're going to be using, and we'll be doing this explicitly on the floor, we've got tens of millions of dollars in lapses. How do you continue to give agencies money time and time again when they can't expend it? And so the bottom line is that the way we see it right now, we can come in with a status quo plus the key areas getting some increases and still have plenty of money to operate the government with, because we've got so many agencies that are lapsing. And so if you look at the budget, and the governor calls for an extra $91 million on top of what we have now, and yet this government is lapsing tens and tens of millions of dollars. So the thing is, if you already have a budget to where you can't expand, why would you increase it by $100 million? We need to build more efficiency into our government. We need to use these audits to show where misspending and things are happening that can be brought in into under control. And that's the approach we're taking. We have to see the evidence that the agencies need this money, or why DOA can't let them spend the money, before you continue to give this appropriation authority, grow the budget. And at some point when the economy does start to slow down, we don't want to put the government in jeopardy. So it's important to be prudent about how we're going forward. But right now, it's really almost impossible to say this government doesn't have everything it needs to operate, because if that was the case, why are these agencies lapsing at that rate? Besides, Lester did make the pronouncement. Everything's hunky-dory. We're humming along. It's looking great. So all we're doing is really adding a little bit more caution by bringing the governor's number down, but it's not right now related to BPT because that's not tracking. And we believe also that by ensuring that these you look at private sector is driving the growth now. These businesses, I'm sure, are hiring. They're doing what they said they're going to do. Now, prices, because of inflation, is hard to control, whether prices come down or not. But with the job growth that we're seeing, and we're hearing from businesses that they're reinvesting this revenue, that's exactly how you generate more revenue in the economy.
Well,
so
GDOL already showed those numbers that what you're saying is correct.
Absolutely.
Private sector jobs are going up. Government employment is going down.
And not only that, but the thing is withholding. If withholding's going up, why does it go up? Because people get pay raises. Now the private sector can start. Now they're giving their employees more money, and also because more jobs. When you got 700 to 1,000 more jobs online, those people who weren't working are now paying withholding taxes. So even with the BPT fluctuating somewhat, you now you have the other categories take it over. Corporate's doing better, and also withholding is doing better. So that's jobs, that's raises, and that's jobs. And then the final thing, and this is where I got my economics 101 under the Calvo administration. Whenever we were doing, we would look at the economy. Things were doing good in terms of collections. Once you put $20 and $30 million at a time of tax refunds on the street, BPT goes up 6, 7, 8 million in the next couple of quarters. This is the same thing. When you put more money in people's pockets, particularly those who don't have much or the middle class folks, they very rarely have, the ability to put that in a savings account. They got to catch up on things that they need to buy. They need to take care of their families. So that stimulates the economy. You put more money in the economy and you actually generate more money for the government.
Fair enough. I appreciate this, Senator. Is there anything? Go ahead.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so with this Typhoon Senlaku readiness fund, pretty much that you guys given out, the $25 million, it is expected that $10 million would be going back.
Yeah, and Lester recommends that it go back into the rainy day fund. You agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, once we finish that hearing on Friday, I think we'll just go ahead and introduce legislation to immediately put that back. I can put that in the budget,
Senator,
which will be great. Yeah.
Senator,
I
I think I settled the problem here. Why don't you take $1 million of that and put it in the cemetery?
I mean, we can because it's the budget process anyways. Yeah. I mean, we could do it, because it's part of the budget process anyways. But, we wanted the legislation because of the fact that when it's law, it's law. That's every fiscal year. And as it was discussed, that, well, what happens if what happens if they ignore it? BBMR has to make a record of why they made the decision. The other is, if the reality is that that's not capable going forward, well, then you repeal the law. But the bottom line is, as long as it's law, that's a requirement. And that means that the Director of Veterans Affairs has to, by law, ensure that there is an appropriation made for $1 million every year for maintenance for 10 years to build up that fund, or otherwise it has to be explained as to why not. That's a shall provision. It's non-negotiable.
What about the OPA? Because he's involved in this. Did he put a testimony like I'm stretched too thin to pay attention to this and make sure everybody's doing what they're saying they're doing?
Well, the OPA would be after the fact. So what would happen is that when the audit comes out and there's audit of the entire general fund and all the single audit, when that comes out, that would reflect whether or not the government was following the law. Right. So that's on the back end. But I mean, the OPA could opine on language or but they usually don't get involved in policy. They're after the fact and they audit whether the government did what it said it was going to do.
Right, because the OPA is kind of like where the enforcer is saying, "Oh, you didn't properly show cause as to why you're not."
That's the watchdog. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciate this. Are you watching any of the World Cup? Anything piquing your interest there?
Oh man, I haven't caught much TV except for catching the news in the morning. So go USA! I guess we won one game, right? That's what I understand so far.
We did. We crushed it. Yeah, heck
right
yeah.
on.
At this point, I mean, it's wide open. All the pools are wide open. I could totally see. I mean, Turkey lost to Australia, and I think we can beat Australia, right? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard.
I'm gonna have some guests here soon from stateside that are soccer junkies. So I have a feeling while they're here visiting, I'm gonna catch up.
Yeah, I haven't watched soccer since the last World Cup, so now I'm a big fan. Once again a big fan. I mean, I don't know.
There you go.
You can't avoid it. It's such a buzz.
It is a buzz. What I have caught that's really been interesting to watch on some of the national coverage is that all the Europeans that are coming to the States are just loving life. What is it? Waffle House, and I guess they got that gas station over there that looks like a mall with a gas station.
Yes, yeah,
a big food station. So yeah, they're just all the social media is going crazy from all the folks from Europe coming over saying the food is bomb over here. Everything's so big. The shopping's great. We love the USA. So hey. Maybe the USA economy, I guess, is going to get a big bump as well.
Did you watch any of the UFC? My goodness, what a spectacle that was on the White House.
That was how did they cover that? Was that the UFC just did it as a pay-per-view, or
you can watch it on
that wasn't run on any other media, right? Or
you watch it on Paramount Plus, but I mean you can find some of the highlights now. But it was on the White House lawn. These guys were shadow boxing in the Oval Office and then walking out. I mean, it was kind of strange, but also I couldn't stop watching it. And then now looking at the highlights, I'm like, that was an impressive coverage. I have not seen anything put together the way they did that. It was like shock and awe.
Love or hate Trump, right? This is his specialty. He's quite the promoter, and I guess he wanted something special for his birthday. So, oh well.
Yeah. Thanks, Senator. Thanks for the time.
All right, man.
Okay.
Take care, you guys. Have a great day, and thanks for the opportunity to jump in on this.
Yeah, and we're definitely following the budget hearing. So whenever you can give us updates, we'd appreciate that.
Sounds good, Pauly. Okay. Take care, Ryan.
Take care.
All right. 5:59 in the afternoon. We got to get out of here,
yes.
Right? We've got Mornings with Patty once again, rolling with dice. Wednesdays are stacked. So you've got Vet Talk. I'm sure they've got plenty to talk about. I saw Uncle Johnny there at the hearing for the bill. I was hoping he was. I'm very curious on his thoughts. And so we'll find out tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow, right? And then, of course, we've got Ryan and I will be back, and Odin Fina tomorrow with Senor Ron Laguatnia from 4 to 6, all right here on Wave 105. Everybody get home safe. Be kind to each other, especially out on the roads. Adios, KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.